Hello and welcome to this afternoon, which is organized by Leonard. We're very pleased to be with you here today for an afternoon of discussion and debates. It's also the occasion to discover some very promising startups. They are going to be here on stage in about an hour. But before that, we thought that this would be a great occasion to discuss a major concern that you probably all share here, which is how to help deep tech and climate tech accelerate, especially in the energy and construction sectors. So, of course, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to solve this matter in one afternoon, but we are going to discuss major aspects of the topic with very different people with very different perspectives today. I'm going to introduce you my guests in just a few seconds, but just a word about them. I think they have one thing in common, which is one common goal, which is how to facilitate the adoption of innovations by major economic players, especially in the industrial sector. They're all pretty convinced that deep techs are one of the essential components in the decarbonization of practices and business models. So I'm very glad to have them here today, explain their various points of view. So I think it's time to introduce them to you. I'm going to start with François over there. François Abou-Khalil, bonjour, hello. You are a partner at Supernova Invest, and there you handle early stage cases in industry and nuclear, and you also manage the fund, which is delegated by Orano to Supernova Invest. And from the Orano side, of course, we have Roger Abou-Khalil, which is right by your side. Roger, you are the head of Open Innovation and a member of this fund named, like I said, Orano Venture Fund. It was officially launched a month ago, so it's pretty brand new. And it has 50 million euros, if I'm correct. But I'm sure you'll talk about that later on. Fanny Griot, bonjour. You are co-head of Raise Infrastructure, which is a branch of Raise. We're here on the investor side, and we'll, of course, discuss the specificities of your approach during this debate. We have a special player here as well, which is Romain Roullois, because of course we needed someone to represent the public point of view, as well as the research and scientific community. And you are the General Director of France Deeptech. And finally, as you can guess, we needed someone from the startup side, so that will be my neighbor, who's a CEO of Metroscope, and your name is Aurélien Schwartz. Metroscope is a company that has innovated with AI for the operation and maintenance of nuclear power plants, if I'm correct. Hello to all of you. So we are going to try in an hour to go through all the stages of life of a deep tech, from the birth to the growth, and try to understand the very particularities of it, as it takes longer time than for traditional deep techs. So in 1 hour, of course, we're not going to be able to go through the whole life, but we'll try and do our best, and we'll try from the very beginning with you, Romain, because I think it all starts with research and science and academics. So is it easy right now, especially in France, because we're in France today, is it easy to get out of the lab today? And what can we do? How can we work to facilitate going from the labs and from the research into startups, to transform the research into real projects?
Hello, thank you, Ingrid, for this question. So France Deeptech is a young non-profit association that brings together investment funds, startups and scale-ups in the deep tech field, of course, and research labs, the main one in France. And one of our main topic for France Deeptech is to bring value to the ecosystem, especially on the tech transfer part. And so we have set up a working group on this subject, trying to identify the main issue that we can face in France when we want to launch a deep tech startup. So in these working groups, we have investment funds managers, tech transfers managers, and also CEOs that have been through the process of tech transfer, and we try to sum up the difficulties they have faced and to find solution to maybe change the way it goes now in France, to maximize the potential of science that we have in France, and to maximize the number of startups that we can count on later on.
And we have a pretty great ecosystem in research and science in France. I think we can say it.
Yeah, Yeah, we do, but we also have to keep in mind that when we compare to the UK or US or even other deep tech countries in Europe, the figures are not so in our favor. I mean, the tech transfer, for example, in the UK brings more startups than it brings here in France. So we have also to, as we were working on this subject in our working group at France Deeptech, we try also to see what we can do better in France with the inspiration of other countries to help startups and CEOs do their tech transfer in better conditions, like with a better agreement and also better delay, for example.
And pretty soon after an innovation is transformed into a startup comes the question of financing, of course. François Bregnaud, what are the global challenges and the actors involved in financing the deep tech and climate tech ecosystem? And do we have some particularities in French? Are we, I don't know, better or worse than others?
10 years ago, yes, 10 years ago, I think France was one of the best country in Europe to have financing. But today, it's you can find in every country, large country, some investors in local. But what is new is the last 3 years. I think the European market for investment has been more countries, transnational. And today, I think we have enough money. We said always that we have not enough money to finance the project, but today we have a lot of money in Europe. The question is to address the money to the best project, and it's not so easy. And today, just to have an idea, perhaps you see that, but 40% of the investment today is for clean tech project. And it was not the case 10 years ago. And clean tech projects are the project with the highest probability to unsucceed. And that is to say that it is risky even today to finance startups. But in fact, you have to consider the maturity of your project. At the beginning, you have to invest €1, and after 2, and after 3, and after 4. According the risk is less important during the time. And the first problem is to finance the project at the beginning. And we are lucky in France because BP France and other entities, even with ADEME, have a lot of opportunities to finance the project, even at the beginning. And it's new. And for me, it's a great opportunity for people who want to create a startup. But at the end, you have to consider four types of financer. First, the customers. But at the beginning, it's difficult to have a lot of revenues, but you have to consider it. Second, you have the public funding, as public fundings like grant or refundable advances. And after, you have some bank loans. It is possible in France or in some other countries in Europe. And at the end, to have more money, you have to consider the investors. Perhaps at the beginning, only business angels, because the funds are not so high. But for deep tech project, you need to have some €1 million to finance it during 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years. And as us, you need to convince professional investors. And it's not so easy, and we can discuss it just after.
you have chosen, so if a project lasts for 8 years, if it takes 8 years to get to the market, you at Supernova Invest have chosen to intervene pretty much at the beginning of the project. Why that, and how do you select the startups on the project?
For me, it's not 8 years to go to the market. It's you can have such a project, but it's a very limited project. But yes, 4 to 5 years, I think it is the good numbers. But even after being in the market, you have to finance the company too, because it's the beginning of the growth, and you need more money sometimes after being in the market, and it is important to be very quickly on the market. What are our criteria at the beginning to select a project? Well, it's not a secret. First, it's the team, because the team is the best player to create the value. And we need to have a team knowing the market, knowing the technology, and at the level to develop the project. Secondly, it is important for us to have a product targeting a market. You have to be very clear about that. Not a technology, but a product to a market, because if you have a product, you need to understand what the customers want, and at the end, you will change your product to be at the level of the specification of your customers, and not to put on the market a product with a technological interest, but like interface to the users, on ability to maintain your product. It is important to have it at the beginning of the story. And third thing, barriers to the entry, because you develop your products during 5 years, 4 to 5 years, and at the end, you need to be one of the leaders of the market. And if you have not barrier to entry, a lot of other entities will copy your product, and you will not be alone. And it will be a pity even for the valuation of the company. And that's why we consider the barriers before investing in a company. And last things, it is to have an idea of the evolution of the regulation, because sometimes it is the opportunity for the startup, and it is important to anticipate what will be the evolution of the regulation.
Do you have just a few names? I'm sure we could find them on the internet, but it will go so much faster if you maybe give us just a few examples of startups that you have in your portfolio.
It is, yes. In fact, we have 2 waves in our funds. First wave, we sold the companies. And if I take some example, Symbio Fuel Cell in the hydrogen market, we are the first investors more than 10 years ago. And it is very capex consuming for the development, because it was an range extender for vehicles. And it is very costly to develop and to have the good cost to address the market of like Kangoo or such vehicles. And it was the time to develop the product was 6 years. And at the end, we sold the company to Michelin before they make the joint venture with Faurecia. And it was a good, interesting project for us. But today, we have put money in different technology background we know. First, materials, and we are in avionics. It's a company that is able to sort the lithium from salars in South America without using chemicals product. And for us, it will be the next success for us. It is for the energy part. And we have invested last time to a company that's called Wisebeam, just to make some digital plan from 2D mapping. And we sold the company to a company in Italy. That's some example because it's
Yeah,
too long.
I'm sure there are many more.
Exactly.
But I would be interested in knowing, Fanny, your point of view in this. At which part of the value chain have you chosen to invest in with Raise Infrastructure, and why would you make such a choice?
I mean, by the name Raise Infrastructure, we are not a venture fund. So within Raise, there is a VC fund. So what we are doing today is investing into mature technologies, meaning that we want to help companies to do their industrials, mainly to do their transition up to 2035, or just the time for hydrogen and other technologies to be here. So the angle that we have taken is to say, okay, we need to do something for the next 15 years. So what can we do to improve? And in all sectors, construction, energies, and logistics segments, there are some technologies that already exist, and we have decided to focus on scaling up those technologies and financing the CapEx in order to do this transition. And the reason why we have done is two analyses that we have made. First, we come from a French energetician, from EDF. I was previously within EDF Invest, which is the investment arm of EDF, financing partially the decommissioning of nuclear plants. And at that time, it has been decided to invest into infrastructure to finance the decommissioning of nuclear plants. And in the infrastructure pocket, we had ages ago, don't say that age is very far ago, we had the ability to invest into gas distribution, gas transportation, all storage. And it was in between, I don't want to say the date, but within 2 years, the financial sectors changed. Just realize that it is not possible anymore to do it. So when you have that type of asset, which works perfectly well from a financing standpoint, but also, I mean, for the moment, we need those assets. In asset managers, say, okay, what are we going to do with those assets? And we have started to work to say we need to reroute those assets in order for tomorrow to get sustainable assets. So it's not that easy to do it. It's a question of the lobbying, regulation, aligning management with us. So it was the first point. So we need to work on existing assets. First point. And second point, by joining Raise is a small GP, but with a specificity to have corporate as LPs mostly. And we say, okay, what can we do with those corporates? And we say, okay, we'll, with their help, try to finance this transition, but the coming transition. We don't have the pretension to do hydrogen and to change the world, but we want to do small projects on existing assets.
What kind of companies do you invest in? Do you have maybe a few names that you could give us, or?
Not, I would love to, but we are working on projects. So we have two types of assets on which we can invest. So infrastructure assets, you can invest in logistic assets and helping us to invest into, for example, EV truck, but you need to scale up the platform, the EV charging parts. You need to finance the EV truck, first type of assets. It's an example. And we also can invest into platforms, so financing CapEx. For example, we are working on a logistic platform in order to enable low cement material to come on the French territory. And so we have taken the option to say, okay, we are not a deep tech, we don't know how to do low carbon cement, but we know how to do logistic projects. So we are securing projects in France and in Europe, infrastructure projects, and we are securing entrance of low cement materials. And with the tools of infrastructure, we'll create an infrastructure platform. So we also are working on a project not yet completely developed in the maritime sector. In the maritime sector, there are alternatives that works already. For example, methanol. But what we, by discussing with armateur, shipper, thank you. By discussing with shipper, what they miss is all the logistic chain. They don't have the storage of methanol. So we need to move with all actors. And what we are trying to do on this project, and to put people all around the table and say, okay, we'll do the CapEx at the same time, and we will take commitment one another in order to work step by step, and not in order to avoid that one company takes the decision to say, okay, I will take an offtake contract with you, and without having all the logistic alongside him.
Securing the projects, I think that was interesting and what we have to keep in mind. I would like to come back to what we said when we started, because Supernova Invest, you've been given the responsibility of a fund which has been launched by Orano, which is a corporate, an industrial. Why would you launch a fund, and why now?
Hello. Okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. So before tackling the question, I will go back to the roots of the innovation. So to make it simple for everybody, so Orano is a French state-owned company. We mainly work in nuclear fuel cycle activities, from mining to recycling. So we are 20,000 person, mainly worldwide in nuclear countries, 5 billion of revenue. Orano started his, let's say, the innovation chapter in 2016, 2017. It was after the restructuring of Areva. So mainly most of you know Areva. So it was restructured in 2016, 2017. And I think in this period, the brilliant idea was to separate R&D from innovation. So it depends from where you come. We have different explanation or definition of R&D and innovation. In my company, we decided to split both of them. So we created the innovation department, mainly based on 3 pillars. So the first pillar is managerial innovation. The second one is industrial innovation. And the third one is business innovation. So managerial innovation, it's mainly for inspiration, best practices, learn fast, agility, all these things. The second pillar was mainly the industrial innovation. And this one was pretty new because it was in the beginning of the wave of Industry 4.0, where all those big companies were defining their digital roadmaps, their Industry 4.0 activities. So we've been turning around to decide how we're going to tackle the problem. So we decided in 2017 that innovation is technological innovation. So we're looking for internal challenges, looking for external startups, and then we are in a chapter that we call it a venture client journey. What does it mean? We are only working with startups on a, let's say, collaboration mode. And then the business innovation, it was mainly to de-risk our economical models and avoid any disruption. So this chapter was mainly between 2016 and 2020. And the main purpose was, the only KPI was reduce OPEX. So we've been working on a 1 billion OPEX, and the purpose was to reduce it by 5 points, which is 50 million. So this is, let's say, the first chapter. Starting from this chapter, you understand very well that between 2020 and 2023, the nuclear industry has changed a lot. We have the COVID period at the beginning, then we have the geopolitical crisis in the Ukraine. So the nuclear is starting once again. We call it the relaunch of the nuclear industry. So we are not changing a chapter, let's say. We are still in the first one, but we added a new one. So we said, okay, we are collaborating pretty well with all those startups. Why not to create an investment fund? We'll talk about it a little bit later, in order to put some investment in long-term startups, mainly in deep tech, based in Europe, and try to understand what they are doing and how they can impact our business. So it was a way to diversify our relationship with those startups, not only staying in a venture client mode, but switching as well to a venture capital mode.
Well, let's talk about it now, not later. I'd like to understand what kind of activities you support and how are they linked, connected, or disconnected with the core of your activities at Orano?
So this was the job, let's say, of last year. So we spent like 9 months working on what we call the investment thesis. So to decline it very simply, it concerns, let's say, our vision on this deep tech ecosystem. So we decided that our fund, Orano Venture Fund, will be sovereign, supporting industrial and sustainable transitions. So we're going to invest mainly in Europe, except some opportunities, but mainly it's a European fund. It's a 50 million fund. It's not an evergreen, so it's a closed fund. It can go up to 10 years. We'll invest mainly between seed and Series A. The ticket size will be between several hundred of Ks up to 3-4 million. So we're looking at a portfolio of 15 to 20 startups. Then concerning the investment thesis or the focus area, we have 3 verticals. The first vertical is concerning what we call all the engineering. So we call it advanced technologies for engineering. Why we are tackling this vertical? You know better than me today that the nuclear is launching once again. So we need to build new facilities. It could be on the fuel cycle. It could be on mining. It could be as well with EDF on future reactors. So we are in lack of resource. Just in my company, Orano, we're hiring between 600 and 800 engineering per year. So all the nuclear industry is looking for 100,000 employees from now till 2030. So we said, okay, we need some deep tech startups that work in design, in simulation, in modeling, mainly to help our engineering. So this is the first vertical. Second vertical, as you know, we are a long-term industry. So our facilities can work up to 40, 50, 60 years. The nuclear safety authorities give us, let's say, the permission to go up more than 60. So we can, in the US, they go up to 80 years. So when you define your technologies today on your process, you cannot change them tomorrow morning. So we said, okay, we will not tackle our industrial process, but we will work on investing in adjacent technologies. What we can say about adjacent technologies, it could be inspection, it could be a remote control, it could be maintenance, inspection, all those kind of technologies, let's say, and activities that can help the operation to be more safe, more secure, less OPEX. And the third one, which is mainly going back to our roots, because of course we work in the nuclear industry, but our roots come from CA. We are chemistry guys from the beginning, not myself, I'm mainly physician. So we decided, in fact, to stay in this circular innovation, mainly in the chemistry, let's say, green chemistry ecosystem. So we're trying to find, let's say, the new pioneers of tomorrow that will help us to valorize, recycle all those raw critical materials. Today we have some activities in my company, Orano. We start, let's say, working on recycling batteries. We are trying to tackle critical raw materials coming from catalyzers. And then we are trying to valorize some byproducts in the pharmaceutical domain. So we start this journey. We are working with Supernova. So Francois is our partner in this journey. We have a combined team. Of course, the investment this can change, depend on the ecosystem. But till now, we're starting with it, and we're looking to invest in the best-in-class deep tech startups.
When I listen to the three of you, there's something that strikes me out, which is the notion of time, the time of financing, the time of the projects. And I would like to know from the startup side or scale-up, or I don't know if which is the right word to use, but how do you perceive this notion of time, and how, where are you now with Metroscope?
Does it work? Yes. So I will start with the beginning, because indeed time, and especially scientific time, can be very long. I started at EDF R&D as a researcher myself in 2014. We did 4 years of research, 3 people, 4 years of research, working on the monitoring of the nuclear plants in France in order to provide a technology that had some worth and that we could create a startup out of. So 4 years just doing R&D, getting the patent, being able to convince everybody that we had some value, that we had an MVP. At that moment, and at that moment only, we decided, whoa, we have something that we can create a startup of. So we can actually go and become entrepreneurs. That was not our first idea at all. I mean, our first idea was to do science. And so 4 years just to do the technology and to work the mathematics. And 4 years on my side doing Python, for those who code in Python. So I was more like an entrepreneur, like some of the people in the audience, coming from literally the laboratories of EDF. Then we have the idea, and then we need to find our first round of finance, because once you have the idea, you want to create the company. And so you need to look for fundings. And so the first thing that we did that was pretty natural to us was to actually be willing to quit EDF and go to an incubator that was like, you had many incubators in Paris. So we chose the incubator from École Polytechnique at Saclay, and we decided we will go with them. That would be a wonderful adventure. And then EDF was like, oh, whoa, what is happening? What is happening? You're going with the incubator of Polytechnique. You have a technology that comes from our R&D. It brings value to our nuclear plants. We have something here we want to discuss. So first round, seed round, was made with the corporate venture of EDF, equivalent to the one you have at Orano, but on the EDF side. But at that time, back in 2018, it was being created at the same moment we wanted to create our startup. So we just had like a good chance that everything was being created at the very same time. And so they said, we're going to have the money. And so we will use that money to invest in Metroscope. And the first thing is, that makes a lot of sense. Why does it make a lot of sense to have a corporate funding your company as a startup coming from a very technological background, addressing nuclear plants? It's just because you will have to fund some CapEx, and the corporate is willing to send the CapEx because they have a long-term vision, they have the data, they have the need, and so they are willing to take the time because they know that scientific time takes a little bit of, it takes the time it takes, and so they were not very strongly looking at ROI in the first place. They knew that we had to develop a product. So we took the deal with EDF to have the IP within Metroscope, be able to address the nuclear fleet in France, and in parallel, start our business development in the world. The seed investment that we got at that moment was 4 million euros, including buying back the IP. So we had to buy back the IP. So it was not 4 million euros to create the team, to be very transparent. The first key trigger that we had was in 2019, when we invited the Belgian nuclear plant from Tihange. We told them, come to France, see our technology in action, you will like it too. And there was the first ever to say, okay, we want the same technology. And just after 2 months after, the Canadian on the lake around somewhere in Ontario said exactly the same thing. We want it as well. And that's really what triggered a second step in the growth of the company. That is, we have external customer. It's not an in-house product just made for EDF. It can go global. At that moment, we decided to create a partnership with Framatome and to start really developing our company on nuclear first. And then we went from nuclear to all the power generation assets. So right now, I should have started with that, but Metroscope, it's 60 people based in Paris, Washington, and Berlin. It's 80 asset equipped. It's over 3 terawatt-hour of energy losses detected. So it's a lot. EDF itself claimed that they gain more than 30 million euros per year of added value thanks to Metroscope. That is direct financial cash out of generation that they can put on the grid that they would not have been able to put on the grid without Metroscope. So it's creating a lot of value. We're a team of 60. We're growing internationally through our AI, and that's really what gathers everybody in the company. So once said, back to my story about funding, because that was the question. Once you have first customer, then you get access to a first round of serious funding that enable you to really have a first level of hiring salespeople, hiring marketing, and really getting ready for, I would say, like the real game, the real business development. And we're reaching the moment where we will need the third round of funding because we're slowly ending our second round of funding that was equivalent to A series. If you look at what's happening in like the real world, I would say, because we're still within EDF, we're still corporate startup, and we're heading to our B series to really fund massively our international development.
We have entrepreneurs pitching right after our panel. I would love to see you pitch. I think you have like an energy which is amazing. I would like to ask you, Romain, a question, because I think that like 3/4 of the deep tech ecosystem in France is member of France Deeptech. So that gives you kind of a unique view on the ecosystem. Aurélien just said that there were 3 rounds of financing. Which one is the most difficult one to get?
Yes, I totally agree with you, François, that we have enough money, I think, on the seed and pre-seed and Series A rounds. But once we say that, when we go on the later rounds, I think there is a lack of money for the financing of the deep tech startups. And thank you for your nice feedback from the field, because at France Deeptech we made a survey among our members, the startup members, to identify the main issue for them for the ecosystem. The first one is the tech transfer. We talked already about it, and the second one is financing, but not financing of the first stages, financing of Series B and later on. And we've conducted a study with BCG on this specific topic to calculate, monitor the amount of money that VC funds still have to invest in startups on the years going from now to 2026. And we've compared that to the amount of money that was raised by startups, deep tech startups, in the previous years from 2021 up to now. And there is a big gap of nearly 10 billion euros between what the startup deep techs need and what the VCs have to invest in them. So yes, there is an issue on the stages that are the later one.
So who should fill in the gaps? Is it the role of corporates? I don't know. Fanny, do you have a view on that? Who should fill in those financing gaps?
So on our side, we don't have the numbers of 10 billion, but we have the numbers for infrastructure of 28 trillions to finance. So it's a word, it's making
so it is getting worse.
So amounts are huge to finance at least the infrastructure part. So the bigger. So on my side, I really believe that at some point, the corporate need to mutualize themselves. First, because energy transition, deep tech, etc., it's investment in the bottom line of the value chain of all corporates. So the topic for a corporate to say, no, it's not my topic, it's the topic of my neighbor, etc., for me, doesn't completely work. So corporates need at least to mutualize themselves to finance this transition. And then, it will help also institutional to reroute financing of those initiatives of the energy transition. Because what we say usually, institutional investor, because there are all this SFDR and all those regulations, it's easier to invest on existing green assets rather than going into the transitioning world. So for me, having corporates mutualizing themselves, will enable first institutional to come and to put money on this transition. And it will also be a big sign from corporate to say, okay, we are here to finance, also all suppliers, all clients, not only me directly, because this is a topic. So we need to help SMEs to develop themselves. Otherwise, I don't see the way they will be able to find cash to do it.
We're going to question this relationship between corporate and startups. So if I start with you, what's it like to have a main stakeholder who's a big corporate, because you come from an entrepreneurship program? What does it mean, and what are the consequences?
So yeah, indeed, EDF is owning Metroscope, so they have 100% shares. So they are my shareholder, and I report to them on a quarterly basis. So I know them by heart. Just before and going on what you were saying, the most important thing for a corporate is to be a customer to startup and not to do everything in-house, because this is what kills innovation, because they always do in-house and they don't bring that to the market. They need to learn how to spend their money for external projects and to have minor shares in external startup, or to create some RFPs, so request for proposal for external third party to come in. They need to play along, and what we see a lot is that In the US, we only face startups. In Europe, we only face corporate R&Ds. This is my reality. Like when you bring an AI in Europe, you face corporate R&Ds. When you bring the same AI in the US, you face startups. First thing regarding corporate. Then the question is, what is it to have a corporate as your shareholder? It is wonderful in the beginning because they give you access to their data, to their industrial asset, to their expertise. That has massive value. We would never have been able to create Metroscope without the data over 20 years of 56 nuclear plants. And that is something that is not just public on the internet. You can't get it. So you need to be part of the, I would almost say, like, especially within EDF, you need to be part of the family somehow to get those access, to get that trust, and to be able to get EDF to sign a long-term contract with you when you're like 2 or 3 years old, which we did. We signed a contract with the nuclear fleet, 56 nuclear plants over multiple years when we just had an MVP. Which is crazy when you think about it. They would never have done that if they were not the shareholder of the company. So that makes a real difference. But what I was saying is that it's wonderful in the beginning because when you grow, then you start to have all the company policy applying to you. And moreover, and that is more dangerous, you start to be serving the corporate strategy over your personal interest sometimes. And that is when it becomes risky because at first you're small enough, you do whatever you want. You can like change topics, you can diverge in your strategy, you can take the turns. When you're big enough, you can't because you're starting to serve the company's strategy and long-term goal. And that means that the strategical alignment with the parent company becomes the North Star. And it should never be. And so when your job, and that's exactly my situation currently, when your job is to grow internationally, and your parent company doesn't have stakes in the country where you're going, that becomes a problem. And they don't even have business relays for you. They cannot distribute your solution because they are not there. And so that becomes a problem. And they need to take higher risk because when you get a B series, then you're starting to speak like 20 million, 30 million, 40 millions. When you get in those areas, they will even more look at the alignment between the project and their own strategy. And they are not willing to take a pure financial risk because that's not their job to be taking a pure financial risk. They are not bankers. They are not investors. They are a corporate industrial company with an industrial strategy. So this is the moment where they need to let go and to start to compose with the other financial fund that have more financial power and more ability to support the growth of the company.
So Orano, you're not doing entrepreneurship, but I'd like to have your view on that and see you react on this. And on 2 points. First of all, what are the benefits that you are looking for when you invest in a startup? What are the kind of relations that you want to have? Is it like what Aurélien is describing? And second point, what is going to happen to your participation when the startup grow and when they look for further financing outside from you, I mean?
Okay, so where to start?
That makes a lot. I'm sorry,
yes,
but he
yes.
said so much that I had
Don't
to have
worry.
you react.
I'm not here to defend my Orano Venture Fund, but just to make it clear, in fact, we are totally in a different story than Aurélien, who started, let's say, as a startup within EDF, and then the capital can be diluted. We are totally different. So in our fund with Supernova, we will not invest more than 20% in the capital. You agree, Francois, on it, this number? Okay, so will not be more than 20-25 in the capital of the startup. What does it mean? We are not here to control it, in fact. It's not our, let's say, it's not our purpose to control the startups. Between us, we can influence some decision in order to make a kind of attractivity versus Orano, but we are not here in the case of Aurélien. Going back to what is the benefits. So it depends with whom you are talking. To make it very clear. So the 50 million, it was given by our CFO. So the CFO is looking for numbers. So when you see the CFO, he will tell you, okay, I need internal rate of return. So this is a big subject of Supernova who need to guarantee, let's say, the internal rate of return. So this is our first, let's say, sponsor. Second sponsor, we have the head of R&D and innovation. Her purpose or his purpose, let's say, is to accelerate internal R&D or de-risk the R&D. So when they see you, they will tell you, okay, what's happening in this ecosystem? Please tell us what's happening in the recycling of batteries. Did we choose the right route or not? Then when you see the head of strategy, he will tell you, okay, I need to access to the new market. Let's take it ammoniac as an example. Do you have some insight from this side? So everybody is looking, in fact, for a win-win solution. This is our, let's say, mission, in fact, to understand the purpose of each one and try to mingle between all these political and strategies. And then you have the business unit, where sometimes you are competing with their R&D. I totally agree with you. In our case, it was mainly between, I hope it's as well as EDF, it was the case between 2016, 2020, because we were mainly in a venture client mode. What does it mean? I was looking mainly to buy rather than make. And here I am in competition with my R&D department, where I would come with a solution. They would tell me always, oh, I can do it in 6 months. I tell them, okay, start doing it. Don't worry, I will do it. Then you skip the startup. It will take 2-3 years to do it internally. Today, we are not in the same equation in the nuclear industry because everybody is overbooked. Everybody is overloaded. You understand it better than me. So this restructuring phase was a little bit behind. So the equation is totally changed today. So the benefits, I will tell you to make it quick. It depends with whom you are talking. Of course, a CVC have KPIs, which is direct gain, which is I give you 50, give you 120 in 10 years. But on the other side, how can I explain it to make it clear for everybody? What is the role of a CVC? To make it short, you scan. So we discussed about the, let's say, about the investment thesis. What you do, in fact, you scan startups, you evaluate them, you invest, you exit. Okay, to make it simple. When you scan, let's take an example. Correct me if I'm wrong, Francois. We will see near 400 startups per year. And those 400 startups, we're going to invest in 4 startups. So it's 1% of investment. So you're going to see a lot of information. So here you need, let's say, to structure all this information and to try to give it to your internal BUs in order to benchmark, to be inspired, to see what's happening. When you invest, you change the subject because you can be on the board. You can discuss. You can know what's happening from inside. You can be a client, a partner, R&D collaborator. And then when you exit, here it's a big equation. Of course, it will be in 8-10 years. Here you need to discuss. We are not a pre-M&A CVC. What does it mean? We are not here to invest small amounts at the beginning in order to buy at the end. Maybe the strategy would change, but till now it's not the strategy. So you have direct gain, of course, mainly financial, and the indirect, it's mainly you benchmark your own processes versus the external ones. You de-risk your operating models and your business models. You push your R&D from internally. It's a kind of doing a, okay, guys, you didn't do it. Let's see what's happening outside. So it depends. So you have different KPIs, different gains. So this is to make it sweet and short, as we say.
I have a lot of things that I want to come back to, but since you mentioned the exit, I think I'm going to jump on that right now because I have this question for you, Francois. How do you prepare the exit? How do you calculate the valuation of a deep tech? And what are the natural buyers of those deep techs and climate techs? What do you see on the market?
First, at the end, it's difficult for us to calculate the valuation because it is the price we will have from the buyer. And it's impossible to change what they have in mind. But first, at the beginning, it is important that we establish a scenario to evaluate how many fundraising and how much we have to invest on a project, and determine at the end what could be the value of the company, value for typology of investors, buyer, on value according the sector. Because if in my sector, industry on clean tech, we have to show a good rentability of the project on the company with a high revenue. It is not the case for microelectronics or life science because the value is not on this valuation. For microelectronics, it's very simple. It's the amount of money of another industrial to develop the same thing in perspective of a roadmap according to the microelectronics roadmap. And for life science, it depends on the number of patients, on the price of the disposal at the end after the clinical studies. If it is difficult for me to have some valuation above 100 million euro, it is easy for microelectronics or life science project to have such an amount of money. But we try at each step of the development of the company to develop the biggest asset of the company and to show the biggest groups on a repeat business, because it is important for the buyer to have a company with a bigger deep business. And what is important for us is the IP. It's sure that at the end, not to have 100 patents, it's not interesting, but just 3 to 5 patents in other industrial to develop the same product. It is a very good asset. I think I have a subject at that time with a limited revenue, but for an instrumentation industry, we think that we have the next product of the segment of the market, and it is impossible to develop it without our IP. And I think we will have 2-3 times the value of the company according to the revenue.
And so now that was the exit strategy, but in the meantime, you need to make the startup grow, of course. So that would be maybe one of the last points that we have, which is how you are going to help the company grow. By helping it grow, there are patent questions, but there's also gaining access to a market. What can be done to help those companies gain access to markets? Is it a topic that you're working on at France Deeptech?
Yes, we do. It is one of the main topic we have working groups on, particularly on public procurement. But I think it's the same for. I'm sure it's the same for corporate procurement, because if we think again about this topic of financing, and if we want more money going into deep tech startups and scale-ups, one good way of doing this is to have corporates and also public procurement, because is the way for startups to get financed and also to develop their product, their technology, and to scale, in fact. And this is what Aurélien was talking about a few minutes ago. So it's very important that the procurement, both from big corporates and also public institution, is driven to our deep tech startups. And what can be done for this? I think one of the main issue is the responsibility of the buyer, the people that take the decision within an organization, either it is a corporate or a public institution. Because if you had to choose between, for example, a cyber solution from Thales or another one from a scale-up or a startup, if the project fails, if I did choose the solution from Thales, I mean, his responsibility wouldn't be engaged. If he choose the solution from the startup and the project fails, it will be tougher for him. So I think we need top executives and managers, top management, to indicate to their people, to the company, and especially the buying services, to maybe be more proactive on buying deep tech solutions and startup solutions, and do not see red flags on every characteristic that a startup has. For example, being funded by VCs is a strong insurance that the company will, I mean, on the financial aspect, will continue to live and grow. So I think this is something we can work on. Yeah.
Aurélien, do you have maybe tips or good practices that you experience when conquer new markets?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most difficult part of building the startup is to build a team, and especially the sales team. I would say this is a very sensitive point, because when you start, the sales team needs to understand everything about the product, the value, but they also need to have all the sales skills. And so it's very. How did we open the US? I just went in the US for 2 months in Lynchburg, Virginia. honestly, like there's nothing to do there. But there is Framatome Inc. that has 3,000 engineers right there. So I went and door to door, I spoke to everyone and said, how do I get to the customer? How do I speak to the people? Who want to be part of the project? And this is how I recruited my first American, by just going there, spending some time on the ground and getting to know our prospects. So I would say, especially when you start, there is no better thing than going on the field, spending your time speaking to the prospect, trying to understand what are their pain, how you address them. So it's pure business development. And this is not something that corporate are often used to, because they are doing account management most of the time, because they don't need to open new market anymore. I mean, most likely if they open a market, it's just by buying a company, but they just don't go on the ground and have to discover everything from zero and build the trust from zero. Very good reading on that, the Challenger Sales. That's a real Bible for salespeople who want to open new markets. I would strongly advise it.
So we were on the field with you, and to conclude, because I would like to keep a few minutes for questions from the audience. So to conclude, maybe, Fanny, I would like to come back something I think that you said, which is that it's very important to get innovation be used by corporates, and that we're not going to manage the huge challenge, which is the decarbonizations of our economy and society, if we just let startups and their innovations in their corner. How can we do that?
So first, by hearing Aurélien, the first thing that I want to say is one thing I've seen from venture companies or startup is to go on the market to get their financing, just to do an IPO, because it's valuable, and each time after they are coming in to see infrastructure fund to say, okay, guys, we need to have a long-term partner. So going on the market and going to see long-term investors is not exactly the same thing. I shut the door. Just wanted to say. Secondly, I think that yes, we need corporates. I mean, as investor on our side, we need corporate because we are not, again, on my side, a VC specialist. So each type there is a new ideas, a new industries, etc. I need to have industrial alongside me, because they are the one who know how to manage big contracts or to do manufacturing, etc. So we need to have them, even for a small portion as shareholders. It's important. I say a small portion, not having them on control, but we need to have partner, industrial partner, but also because if your company has a chance at some point to become an infrastructure asset, the key of an infrastructure asset is to have a long-term agreement. So the offtake agreement is key, and who are the best to have long-term agreement, offtake agreements? It's industrial. So we need them first to be alongside infrastructure investor, which are, I mean, we are industrial, we are backed with industrial profile, etc. But we need to have them because they know how to do huge projects. But secondly, we need to have them also because they are taking the long-term contracts. So it's key to have them alongside companies, infrastructure companies, but also for this period where startups start to become an infrastructure asset.
Thank you very much to all of you. It was very interesting, and as I was sure we did not have enough time to cover everything, but if you have some questions, we just have a few minutes left, so we would be more than glad to have them. The first one is always the hardest, so come on, just go for it. Yes.
Hello, thank you very much. Do you have an example where an investment from an industrial prevented the company or the startup to raise with more traditional VC funds later on? Because I've heard that could be a risk sometimes. Thank you.
Ask me in 2 years. It obviously can happen if the technology is too critic and eventually they put that in a business unit. But honestly, the intention are often quite clear from the start. Intention of the funding team and intention of the corporate. And speaking for myself, we know exactly what are the intention of EDF, and we know that they are supportive of us going with other investment fund to support our growth. So I would say maybe it happens, but it shouldn't be a surprise to the founders. They should know that from the very beginning, because the very first deal that they sign with their shareholder is to say, okay, what's going to be the exit? I mean, when you enter a company, you ask the question about the exit systematically. So I would be extremely surprised that a company is created and they have no clue what is the exit.
Any other question? Okay, then I think we can all thank them very much. We just need a second to reorganize, because we're now going to leave the floor to the startup pitches.
Donc quelques minutes pour se réorganiser et on va passer sur la partie session des pitch startup seed. Passion. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Je vais... Ça marche là? Vous m'entendez? Je vais inviter les membres du jury aussi à se mettre sur les chaises devant. Là où il y a les petits QR codes. Pierre, je t'invite à t'asseoir là où il y a un petit QR code. Merci. Yellow. So I invite the member of the jury to come and sit down in the chair up front, where there is a QR code. You will also find for the audience a QR code on the walls if you want to be able to give insights and advice to the founders after their pitch. And we will start with the first startup.
Ça y est, je lance la première startup.
Ils ont 5 minutes, 10 minutes de questions-réponses. C'est court, on peut s'échanger avec eux. Attention, c'est branché. Ouais, c'est pour le premier pitch en fait. Ouais, c'est sa boîte. Non, laisse-le.
So we're now moving on to the second part of our afternoon, which is the startup pitches. I'm sure you're very familiar with the exercise, which is a 5-minute pitch and then a 10-minute Q&R with the jury that we have today and with you, the audience as well, if you have some question. So the first startup that we are welcoming today is Akidaya. We're now in the security sector. More precisely, the challenge of how to protect protected sites. So what can be done to upgrade their securities, especially what can be done offline, as we know that online security is a major challenge and risk right now. It's the question that Akidaya has been working on. So I'm very glad to welcome Gaël Lededantec, CIO, who will tell you more about this solution.
Hi. Bonjour. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Gaël Lededantec, CEO and founder of Akidaya, and I'm going to talk about the security of companies, and especially the security of physical access in companies. In fact, we noticed that for more than 30 years, all access control solutions on the market, they work more or less the same way. They are all connected to a database. Whatever you use, a badge, a QR code, mobile app, or even biometry, you always have a reader on the door, which will basically read an ID and will check a database of authorized people. This means that you need an infrastructure on each opening systems. And there is 3 problems with this. First, it's expensive to install. Second point, if you are connected, you are vulnerable to cyber threats. And last point, that when you want to secure multi-site, distant location, or even isolated areas, there is a lack of solution. With Akidaya, we succeeded to avoid this infrastructure. In fact, instead of this connected reader, you have here a reader non-connected, which will behave like a black box, never connected to a network, and without user data inside. So you can plug it on any electrified opening system in 5 minutes. And after, when you want to create an access, to give an access to someone, to a visitor or to an employee, in fact, you will distribute a decentralized access. And the user will receive this access on the mobile phone. And the point is that the reader, I told you, is non-connected. So it doesn't know that you can enter. And this is the technology we developed. In fact, the reader will challenge this decentralized access. It will certify that the access is authentic, is true. And in fact, this technology, it's a patented technology about offline identification without the need to check a database. And the proof that with this innovation, we bring the security to a new level is that we are now officially supported by the French defense industry. Concerning the markets, we notice that all decision makers are obsessed about the physical and digital security of their companies. It's why it will be a non-stop growing market in the next 10 years. It's also a very fragmented market. So in terms of tactic, it's an amazing opportunity for a startup like Akidaya arriving with 4 strong differentiation points on the market. First, we created the first scalable and plug-and-play access control solution. And this is amazing for temporary sites like construction site, for example. And instead of losing the investment when you secure the construction site, in the end of the job, you just unplug it and plug it on another site. Without infrastructure, we reduce the cost by 80%. If it's non-connected, we protect the network of our client from cyber threats. And very interesting point, the last one, we open a new market. We are now able to secure even isolated access points like technical facilities, like storage site, production site, today secured with simple keys. We started to sell last summer. We have 3 distributors, 21 clients in France, Italy, Ivory Coast, and even Canada. So it's truly scalable. And we started to win some awards. In France, as the best French startup in Industry of the Future category. And we came back from Las Vegas with a CES Innovation Award in a cybersecurity category. The business model, because I'm late, so we'll go fast. Business model is very simple. One gate means one mini box. One box means one subscription, including the hardware and the software. Concerning the market, in direct sales, we focus on the market where we have the biggest value and where the competitors, as they have some difficulties to enter, so defense, construction, and industries in general. For the rest, we'll go through a distribution network. We have 3 founders, already entrepreneurs for more than 10 years. We have a technical team and 3 advisors. We created the company 3 years ago. After research and development and paid experiments, we succeeded to finance our patents and the first stock of 600 mini box. Now we focus on sales. And to accelerate and keep the technical roadmap, we are going to raise 1.2 million euros in the next 2 months. And to conclude, it's a huge market, the security, but the branch of access control, it's a slow industry, very slow. And there is no technical leader who can stimulate the market. And this is the position we want to reach in the next 4 years. Thank you. And after I can give you a beautiful demonstration.
Thank you very much. So now we have 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you have questions, maybe from the jury to begin with.
Hi. Not sure I got it right. Do you get data on people accessing using the code, or is the hardware completely unconnected?
The hardware is completely non-connected.
So no activity on who's opening what? Yes,
we have, because the data will come back from the smartphone. Okay.
Okay. So the smartphone will collect the data by okay.
In fact, all these digital encrypted keys I was talking about, they renew all the time, and to be renewed, they need to upload the data.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Gael.
Hi.
Good to see you again. You mentioned that this industry was quite slow. What are your levers in terms of B2B sales in order to accelerate the sales to these big logos and be able to deploy your solution at scale?
In fact, our entry point will be to propose this new use about the security of isolated access point. It's our point of entry on the market, the main differentiation point. And this is why we started to work with VINCI Construction. Because if I started to tell 2 years ago to VINCI Construction, for example, I want to secure the new building, where they have the choice with the most famous technology. In fact, they will say, okay, thank you, but as a startup, get away. And in fact, they understood we did an experiment, and after the first experiment, we received a big order to secure the headquarters of VINCI Construction in Nice. Okay, and it's like this we start to enter with the big companies. And it's like this we started with the defense industry too. I answered to your question?
Yeah, and how long does it take for you to be able to scale and to be basically deployed on all over a given portfolio of one of our clients?
With VINCI, for example, VINCI Construction, it took, after the first experiment, it took around 1 year to have the big order. And usually about energy company, about people operating water, about defense, they all start, because it's a new technology, we are a young company, so they order few hardware to secure few doors, and after a few months, what I described just before, they plan to give a big order and to start to scale in one client. And for the rest, it will be distribution network.
Thank you for. Sorry. Please go on. Thank you for the pitch. If I understood well, your defensibility relies on the patents you have. So, what are the scope of the patents, and what are the other key elements of defensibility that you have?
Alors, I understood that you were talking about the patents, but I didn't understand the question. Sorry.
What are the other elements of defensibility that you have?
This it's to protect our company in this big industry. First, you protect the technology, what we did, and there is no objection in this patent. So this is amazing first. After, the idea is to create a big ecosystem around the company. It's why we wanted to be in this Léonard program. It's why we try to have the support of the French defense industry. It's like this that we have a stamp on us, like this is sovereign. I don't know how you say this properly in English, but technology sovereign for the French government, for example. And with the CES Innovation Award, now the offline identification system over the world, it's Akidaya. So we'll try to continue to build this ecosystem around us. And
the scope of the patent is around the encryption?
Alors, it's about the offline identification protocol. It's based on this. So yes, I didn't say I didn't have time during the pitch, but the innovation is not the smartphone. Okay? Please keep this in mind. The innovation is not the hardware. Tomorrow, it's why French defense industry is interested. It's not because of the smartphone. It's about this offline identification protocol. Okay? So tomorrow it will be a kind of new generation of badge, for example. Tomorrow we can do even biometry. It can be integrated indoors directly. We don't need to propose hardware. So the innovation is the fact that we can identify you without the need to check a database. Locally, what do you mean?
I'm not sure to understand. I'm sorry. Yeah. Where come from your authentication? Through the wireless of the mobile of the customer?
In fact, what I described is in the introduction that usually when you want to enter somewhere or to be identified even in a computer, you always give an information and they check in the database locally or on the network if you can enter. You understood this? And here I will do the demonstration. In fact, even if my phone is non-connected, is in offline mode, okay, I can detect the hardware, the fact that I am in front of the door. And when I want to enter, in fact, even in offline mode, this identification protocol happens in 1 second, okay? And all the time I want to enter, all the time it will be a new identification protocol. So you can't hack the system by the network. Locally, there is no data to get. And the communication here is new all the time. So you even can't hack locally the opening system. Okay.
Thank you.
I find the presentation and the idea very interesting. I understand you have started with the consideration of construction sites, but have you considered the energy generation, particularly PV plants of mid-size, which used to be in remote places unattended, or wind farms, which may be mid-size, which do not have people there, That's one question, okay, because I think there is a huge niche there for solutions like this one. And the second one is we are in a remote place, and then what happens if the bad guys do not respect the fence and jump over it? Have you considered the possibility of having some sort of, in the same way you have an autonomous access control system, you may have an autonomous response, for example, having a drone in a nest, which is activated by the system if somebody violates the perimeter, something like that. Have you considered that?
So it's interesting to discuss about different use case and potential. You understand that when it's about our market, in fact, it's all the place or even the software you need to be identified. But I am here to present you Akidaya. I can't say we will revolutionize everything. I need to have one message. I'm glad that you understood, and you understood even potentially different use case concerning the first point about, for example, energy and all these things. I will be glad to discuss with you about this because I don't know perfectly this kind of market. And after you talked about drone, for example, some people in some defense exhibition, they came to meet us because they want to be able to identify people with drones during the delivery, for example. Because we don't know, we never know where the drone will finish, if it's connected area or not. You understood? Sorry? $3.3 million. Now it's what we are discussing, yes. Why are you smiling? Another question? After I will be just here, so don't hesitate to come to discuss and to see in detail the demo. There's a question.
There's a question over there. You can try without the mic in the meantime when it's coming to you.
Thank you. Thank you for your pitch. Two questions. The first one is on the market. You mentioned three main markets: construction, defense, and industry. Right?
Industries, yeah.
Industries. If you have to choose one, which one has the highest potential for your business?
In terms of cash, defense. In terms of volume, it will be the industry. But keep in mind that the main of our turnover will be through the traditional market, I guess. So what we will build with the distribution network. Because today, if, for example, if Leonard has a problem with access control, by the way, we should discuss about this. But if they have a problem, they will call who? They will not call the supplier. They will call the installer. And it's why we are starting, for example, to build a distribution network with VINCI facilities, because they are everywhere in France. And for example, in the first military site we want to secure, it's VINCI facilities who has the contract to do these installations. And when they want something, they call VINCI facility. So we should be known by these people, and we should have a deal with these people. When I talk about 3 distributors, it's this kind of profile. And the idea is, in fact, to do nothing and to just to animate this network, and they will bring a volume of order.
Okay, thank you. And the second question concerns the construction market, which is
construction market.
Yeah, which is, I think, not the priority one, but which type of construction sites you are focusing on? I mean, I guess it's more for big projects with high risk construction sites and not residential construction site or tertiary one.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. I think I understood. Concerning construction site, we did only one site today. Okay, one site because it was the experiment for VINCI Construction. The idea to secure this site was that, in fact, it's always a budget to secure a construction site, and in the end of the mission, in fact, this money is lost. And they do the same big check for the second site, the same for the third, etc. And now VINCI Construction, they understood, they plugged in 5 minutes, in fact, really, the construction site. When it's over, they just unplug, it's 4 wires, they just unplug and plug it on another construction site. This is the biggest added value we have, in fact, because we bring a return on investment point instead of losing money.
Thank you very much, Gaël.
Thank you. Thank you.
You will find all the startups after in the village next door. So of course, for the next questions, you can find them afterwards.
We remain within crucial infrastructures, but in the maritime industry this time, if I'm correct. And I'm very glad to give the stage to Pierre-Emmanuel Peroux, President of ABIM.
Good afternoon. So today, 90% of the global trade goes by shipping. For the first port in the world, it represents $500,000 per hour. So each object that you use today goes through ports 10 times. But in the same time, port authorities must face major issues like higher activity, aging ports, rising water level, and resilience. But if ports do nothing, do you know how much it will cost on the next 25 years? The cost of inaction is estimated to $10 billion per year for the main 133 ports in the world, and $100 billion per year for the other secondary port. I'm Pierre, CEO of ABIM, former combat diver in the French Army and commercial diver with more than 5,000 divers all over the world. We have launched ABIM in order to anticipate these issues. ABIM is a digital platform dedicated to connect ports to their digital twin and to introduce them into the predictive maintenance. We give the client a real-time vision of the condition of docks, a support for operational quality and safety, and finally, tools to anticipate the impact of climate change on their infrastructure. Our business model is based on revenue stream like audits, assistance, and training teams, but also with human resources, innovative data, and business international. Of course, we are not the only one. We have 5 competitors, but we are the only one who decided to integrate BIM, IFC, and satellite data in our solution. Our solution is composed of 3 applications: audit, optimization, monitoring, dedicating to port authorities, Los Angeles ports, majors like Maersk or CMA CGM, and reinsurers or control offices like Bureau Veritas and Scores. That will allow us to get 2 markets. The first one, composed by global shipping and marinas, is estimated to $260 billion per year. And we aim to get $12 million per year of revenue. And the second one, composed by control offices and reinsurers, is estimated to $90 billion per year. And we aim $2 million of revenue. But the second one can quickly become bigger than the first one. In 2024, we already secured 300,000 euro on innovative purchase and grant, and we are waiting for 250,000 euro more. We are structuring the company in order to answer to call for tender for existing port up to $5 million with strategic agreements with a company from VINCI Group, Foreshore, Soletanche-Bassy, and Osmol. And we aim to be the leader in 2029 in port predictive maintenance with 18 million of revenue through 15 projects and 60 passionate persons. So we need $2 million to succeed in order to perform our solution, to secure our human resources, and to build a really strong business commercial all over the world. Finally, I'm not the only one. I used to say that our greatest intelligence is not artificial. So we are a team of 9 persons, 9 passionate developers and engineers dedicated to the success of ABIM. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Pierre-Emmanuel. So we open the question session.
So you need ports. You can ask some question.
I think we have one.
Please give us example of solution you bring to your client.
We have two models already done. The Port of Monaco. This is a luxury marina, and we have the Port of Cartagena in Colombia. For the first one, I'm 15. So we bring them some information through papers and CD, compact disc. Last year we met them, and they was a little bit embarrassed because they didn't have no information, but they still have the CD. So now they need something more digital in order to get information and to bring the information to the next generation of engineers. So we bring this solution to the Port of Monaco. For the second one, in Cartagena, the first time I met them, it was in 2014. Water was about under 1.5 meters under the buoyancy, the defense, and now the water is near the top of the docks. So they need more information in order to take decision of investment, what to do, what if they need to raise the docks, to build another docks in another place, and you still understand that the construction of 100 meters of dock is 1 kilometer of dock is 200 million per kilometer. Sorry, 200 million per kilometers for construction. So we give them some information, clear information, in order to take decision.
With the BIM.
With the BIM, with our audit solution, and with all the information that they can put into the model.
And what is your audit solution?
So this is an old one, French one. We start from something called IQA, Image Qualité Ouvrage d'Art, and we develop it to the ports. And we decided to digitalize this solution in order to allow the clients to get information in real time and to be able to put themselves some information into the model. The main object is to get the model alive in the next 15 years or 50 years.
There was a question here.
So obviously you've got this beautiful model now of the ports, yes? What are you using to capture in real time or add to that so that they can make decisions based on that? So it does not just become quickly out of date.
Yeah, so the first one is human, because we give the opportunity to human through our solution on phones to get some photo and to make some alert, some warning on the application. So everybody can take a photo of engineer structure will get destroyed, or electrical panel open that should not be open. Well, so the first one is a human. Then we have drones and IROV through periodical survey. But we also have satellite data. We have a program with the CNES in order to use INSA data to make the survey of docks, and with an accuracy of 3 millimeters from the deterioration. Sorry, from the I forgot for my English word, for the movement of the docks. So we use innovative solution as well as human resources.
Thank you. And do you add the predicted information for climate change in 50 years, 70 years?
So my job is not to deal with the climate change directly. I need to understand what is the states of the installation, and if the states of the installation is enough regarding the rising water level. We already have some problem on docks and concrete on all the port all over the world. So right now, this problem are up au-dessus, sorry, above the water. but in the next 10 years, they're going to be under the water. So we're going to have some problem, and we must take some decision today of investment. So regarding the climate change, I know where water is rising. I know exactly. For example, in Colombia, there is a big problem right now. But my main topic is to give some metrics to the client in order to take the decision. There is some. We are working with Sixth Sense from the group, and they also have some company who give some information regarding climate change. So we comment. We are at the frontier. You talk about one of them. We are at the frontier between the docks and the sea. So we are a specialist of engineering structure, and they are specialists of climate change. So we compare our information or we combine our information.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question here.
With
yeah, let's go.
Yeah. With respect to you mentioned that you build a digital twin of the port. Okay. So to what extent do you gather that information manually or automatically? By which means do you gather the information you require for the building the digital twin of the port?
Twice. First, we use historical information from the client. So we take all the photos, plans, even when they are from the 90 or the 80, and we build the BIM model. And then after that, we collect all the information coming from the client. If they find some problem when they put information on the model, we get an alert. Even when the problem is a critical one. So we get an alert, and that's why we can assist our client. Even when they have some information, classical information, we have an overview of what's happened on the model directly. You can easily check a port in the United States or in Colombia from France.
Yes. Hello again. Is there a sweet spot for your first beachhead market, like the ports that you would target first? Maybe the biggest ones are not the best, or the smallest ones are not the best.
So we are in the box program from CMA CGM and also Leonard from VINCI. So with CMA, I had an exchange with the chairman, Rolov Sade, as you can see on the photo. And this day he asked me, he said, okay, where can we make a demonstration? And after 10 minutes, he said, okay, let's go to Los Angeles. I would like to do Los Angeles port, but I think that first we need to make some evangelization. You know, we need to say to people all over the world that they have solution in order to survey the ports. Maritime sector is an old lady. She want to change, but it's really it's on the long term. So my first market, I used to say that I would like to develop something in Latin America or Central America, because of it is a big route in the maritime sector. As you know, we have Canal du Panama, so big ships do not go through the Canal Panama. They go on some ports. On some port, then you have some feeders, smaller boats who take all the containers and go through Latin America. So this is a big market for us. So I think that we have first small installation that can be where we can develop our solution, and then we are going to see the big one.
The last one.
Yeah, a question here as well. Thanks for the presentation. Can you just elaborate a bit on the commercial traction at this stage? How many experimentations have you done? How many clients do you have? And do you generate any revenues out of all of this?
So we have done two models, as I told you, Cartagena and Colombia. It was 2 years ago, and Monaco last year. And we have concluded a contract with Toulon-Provence Métropole for one port. This is a demonstration, but the objective of the Metropole is to develop the solution on the 21 other ports So they need something in order to bring their port in a new area, and not and to stop to use papers and to use money without vision of what they will do with their port in the next years. So with one client, we have 22 ports. And this is Marina, sorry, this is not containers installation, but you also have oil and gas. Despite we try to decarbonize, you also have oil and gas terminals.
Thank you very much. Our time is up. So that was a good transition because you talked a lot about Colombia and Latin America, and our next startup is coming from Latin America and Colombia. So I call on Spybe with Felipe Garçon, CSO. Hello.
Okay. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me well in the back? Perfect. Okay. So hello and welcome to the future of Latin American construction. Okay, so with my co-founders, we have worked in the construction industry for almost a decade now. And what we found is that 9 out of 10 construction projects have delays or overruns. And in Latin America, it's almost 10 out of 10. And it's a huge problem because in Latin America, construction represents 13% of the GDP. It's a huge market. And if we see the productivity, in the x-axis, we have the improvement of the productivity in the last years. And in the y-axis, we have the productivity itself. The yellow dots are the Latin American countries. As you see, we have a gap of productivity of almost $20 if we compare ourselves to the European countries, for example, in a market that represents almost $700 billion. It's a huge problem. So we built the best team to solve this problem. We are experts on construction, in software development, and also we team up with the best in the kind of Colombia to build Spybe. Spybe is a platform for construction companies that leverages reality capture to increase productivity. Basically, what we do is that we capture everything that happens on construction site on every perspective. For example, with drones to capture what is happening externally, with 360 cameras to make the walkthroughs, and IP cameras to track what is happening in real time. But not just that. In Latin America, WhatsApp is the main communication channel inside construction sites. So we decide to integrate into our platform WhatsApp, the communication channels, to RFIs, task, issues tracking. With this information, we create the digital replicas. Digital replicas where you can travel around, you can go outside, you can go inside and see what is happening through all the construction process. Go a year ago and see how's the project looking in that time, right? So, but the most important thing is that we offer construction insights. We say the construction company when it's doing good or it's doing bad. If we see our competitive landscape, we are a platform that integrates a lot of technologies. So we have a high integration in technology adoption. But we focus to be a user-friendly and intuitive platform. Why? Because our clients, our users, are people inside construction sites. So we have to adapt to them. If we see of those companies, which one operates in Latin America, we can see that we are far away. We are highly integrated and we are really user-friendly. So we can be the first movers in the reality capture market in Latin America. Right now, we charge our clients by project and by month, and we are forecasting an annual recurrent revenue of $250,000, a 3x growth if we compare to December of 2023. All this growth is supported by strong unit economics. We have a relationship between LTV and CAC of almost 10 times. We want to reach in 18 months, 500 projects to reach 2 million of annual recurrent revenue. We also want to explore markets as Peru, Chile, and Mexico, but we already have projects in there. Also, our platform wants to integrate project management tools, AI tools, a mobile app, and IFC tools for the BIM support. We see VINCI as a high platform to scale in Latin America. Right now, VINCI have more than 300 construction sites in Latin America. Right now, we're working with companies of VINCI, like Soletan Bashi, Geo and Prefa, but we want to work with VINCI Highways in a really landmark project in Latin America, that is the Via Suma Paz, a huge project over Colombia. We're right now raising 1 million seed round to accelerate our product and our growth, to reach all the milestones that you see. We want to partner you and make an invitation to join us to be the first movers in the reality capture market in Latin America and to transform the realities of the project together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Felipe. So what are your questions here?
I know that your focus is on Latin America for some very good reasons, but you also know that we've discussed you have features that Drone Deploy and your other competitors don't have. So would you offer the platform outside of that geographical region and in other languages sooner than you have shown here?
Yes, that's in our plans. Right now, for example, we will start a project pilot in Barcelona to start moving to another markets. And right now, our platform is in process to be translated full to start using in any latitude. So we are changing our approach of the market to our client to be a more product-led growth and to scale to a market in a faster way. So yes, and we will be here soon. Wait for us in French land page.
English and French?
English and French will be.
Yeah, there's one question over there.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. What about the treatment of the ABS data? Because, you know, sometimes somebody can think that is the own or the property of the information is that it has in the mobile phone. How do you doing the treatment of this kind of information?
That's a great question. Right now, we're like handling all the information in our contract with our client, that is client's information. But when somebody register a WhatsApp number inside our platform, they have to agree to certain terms and conditions to be aware of the treatment of the data. All the data that travels through the bot that is with Spivey must be handled according to the politics of the company of ABS data. So we think with this we can like fully approach the information and fully integrate the information without risking the information of our clients.
Do you already calculate the increase of performance for your customer?
Yes, we made some calculations like last month, and we just show up that we have like 15% of improvement in productivity for the project managers and for the people inside the construction sites, because they save a lot of time in the information process and the reporting process. We have a lot of other impacts that we have also for productivity of all the team, for communication for all the stakeholders. It's kind of more difficult to calculate, but we're on it. And for sure, we have another impact, that is that you have here a replica since you start your project. So you have like a insurance of your project if you have some problem after the construction. So we have many impacts, but we just calculated one of those.
In terms of marketing, it could be great if you can have those key metrics.
It's a great point, because the company that we work with at Soletan Bachi in Colombia, we started for marketing purpose, and we're starting to expand our reach to the technical teams too.
One question here. Thanks for the presentation. One challenge that we see for adjacent companies that are also positioned on construction sites is the fact that often at the end of the project, there's basically a churn, a mechanical churn, because the project is over. Do you face this, and what are your levers in order to avoid that?
I don't know if I completely get your
Like
question.
at the end of the construction project, there is no need anymore for monitoring the site since it's done. So sometimes there can be some churn of your client. Have you experienced this, and what are the levers that you have to avoid this, basically?
Yeah, for after they finish the construction process in their buildings, and that's it. I think we can leverage the information that we capture to the start of new projects. So we offer the insights and all the information that we gather from previous projects to make new projects better and more productive. So don't be just information of the past, just to try to take advantage of that information that we gather from that project and to introduce into the new project. So it's been great to see how it could help the companies to avoid some problems that they were facing in later projects before. Yeah.
When you want to start a new project, what are the steps that are required to set up the workspace so it's fully ready for that specific project? And does it include, well, do you need to get involved in that preparation, or is the user fully autonomous on the setup of the project?
Our platform is capable to handle all the onboarding process by itself, but we saw that our clients need at least a couple weeks of preparation to include of the people that is necessary to be in the platform. So we make some company to our clients to make all the onboarding process more faster and easier for everybody. And you just only need to start working with Spy via phone with WhatsApp. If you want to add drone information, you can add it. If you want to add 360 information, you can add it. We are really flexible about the technologies that our clients handle. So we can be just WhatsApp or just drones. So it's okay for us. With the minimum, you can start, right? So that's our part of our advantages. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Felipe. We now move on to the energy sector that we talked a little bit in our roundtable, and this time we combine it with AI, and we talk about it with Autoroutes Energy and Alexandre Girard, CEO.
Good afternoon. Thank you. So, in a groundbreaking report from late 2023, the international energy agencies highlighted the power grid as the bottleneck of the energy transition. My name is Alex. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Autoroutes Energy, and our mission is to bridge the gap between power grid challenges and buildings. I don't know about you, but I was shocked to see in 2022 in France, our schools set to close because the power grid was about to collapse. The blackout risk has come back and is here to stay. In the meantime, you all notice that the commercial real estate sector is going through a deep crisis where every euro now matters. So what if power grid operators and building managers could help each other? The power grid operators are ready to pay, as they really need 5 times more flexible power, which can be translated to electrical consumption that can be shifted by an hour or two to help balancing supply and demand. And the building managers have exactly that, with heating and cooling load that can be shifted easily. And they're also looking for that quick win. Right now is the time to bridge that gap, as leveraging electrical flexibility in buildings is becoming economically attractive and technically feasible at scale, thanks to a regulatory push that makes it mandatory in buildings to have a building management system, which is basically a centralized system that manage heating and cooling appliances. So we are building that bridge to enable building managers to help the power grid and benefit from that very easily through a software and a platform. So we operate with 3 simple steps. The first one is that we connect to the building management system being deployed. We shift the loads, heating and cooling loads, out of peak time without impacting comfort. And third, we pay them directly. We do that thanks to 2 top-level technical foundations. The first one is an agnostic and scalable platform, and the second one is an AI layer that allows us to understand thermal behavior of buildings, as every building is unique. At the end of the day, is quick wins for building managers on 3 different topics, which is first, cash. Second, dramatic decrease in the carbon intensity of the peak electricity. And third, impact, because they help securing the electricity supply. In just a month, we were able to onboard big name clients like IKEA and La Poste Immobilier, and others like Energy Manager, like Aventis, and VINCI Facilities, who is set to join the slide very soon. So I mentioned them as our clients, but it's actually us that we are paying them because the money comes from electricity markets. We're able to value the consumption shift, and we are giving the money back to the buildings. So our model is actually gain sharing. We share the gains with our customers, like the building managers. And this is our go-to-market strategy to scale. 3 simple steps. The first one is to get into buildings through energy and facility manager, being a tool to help them generate more value out of the energy management they provide. Second, we expand horizontally within their portfolio and those of their clients. And third, we'll be in the best position to upsell other energy services as SaaS because we are connected to the building management system. So we're looking at a large and growing market, 1 billion euro in France, 300,000 buildings to be equipped with BMS. Our competition comes both from legacy industrial demand response operator and from new startup. We differentiate by being the only one combining the tech stack for small load demand response and deep understanding of the control system in the buildings. So our team is not only very ambitious, also very complementary with engineering and management skills. And we're also very, very proud to have onboarded Antoine Debreuve as an advisor. Antoine co-founded the largest flexibility operator in France, operating industrial plants. And he later joined VINCI as his company was acquired by VINCI Energy. So thank you very much. We are currently building a great team in Paris, looking for top talent to join the journey. And let's do that together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandre.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you approaching residential buildings, or are you starting with corporate offices and the like?
Oh, sorry, I missed the question.
Yes. Are you approaching residential buildings or only corporate offices and the like?
For now, we only focus on commercial buildings.
Makes sense, yeah.
Offices, retail spaces. Mainly for go-to-market reasons, because to address
Hello.
Hello.
What kind of partnership do you need to build to scale your business? For example, are you dealing with ESCO, energy service company like Engie, Dalkia, or Veolia? Of course.
This is one way. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead. So we could actually build partnership with those players that you mentioned. But right now we are focusing in a direct approach to acquire the relationship with the client, because we very believe that we can bring them value over the next 10 years, because there's more and more value to get when interacting with the power grid. And so we want to be there, we want to have the relationship with the clients. But those partnerships would be very interesting to get scale rather fast. So we are open to those relationships, to those partnerships, but we are really also focused on building direct relationship with the clients.
And what are the first results with IKEA, for example?
So last winter was our first winter of interacting with the power grid. So we didn't have the full season, but we projected and expect to be able to give them €1 per square meter every year, because they have electrical heating, so it's a favorable. Yes?
How difficult is the integration with, for example, the BMS or other partners to get to have access to the data?
Yeah, very interesting question. Thank you. Interfacing with the BMS is currently the biggest challenge, operational challenge we face. Hopefully, there is the regulatory push that I was mentioning, which in France is called the Décret Bax, makes it mandatory for building management system now to use open protocols like BACnet, Modbus, for those who know what I'm talking about. And so we are able to interact with them, either directly or through gateway. It's very easy, very cheap to install. And so with that, we can today address about 80% of building management system by going through the protocols directly. Yeah.
Yeah. The electricity market, as far as I understand, is organized very differently in the various countries. How scalable is your model internationally?
Yeah, so we really see ourselves as a technical tool to bridge the gap between power grid and buildings. That's also the reasons why we wanted to work with already certified market player, even here in France. And we're looking to replicate the model in every market we're going. We just have to find the market access player, but it's going to be rather easy because we're bringing them business. So yeah, that's we are the tool. We are the technical tool. This is what we're good at. And so we are building partnerships with market access player everywhere we go. Yeah.
You show some of your competitors, and I guess you have many more than the one you showed. What are the barriers that you're building that will prevent the one, for example, addressing the B2C market to go to the B2B one?
Yeah, so the main barrier is the BMS interface. And also, once you are actually interfaced, you have a strong business position. And that's the reason why we are putting so much effort going deep in the buildings, interface with the system already used by the energy managers. Our competitors, their approach is to go through the end device manufacturers, like smart thermostat. It's very easy to integrate with modern API from a smart thermostat. But we believe that we need to be where the building manager is and be integrated with the tool they use. So this is what we do, and this is what's very hard. There's nobody in the world that's been able to easily interface with those systems. And so for now, that's the biggest difference.
Any more questions? I guess you did a good job then.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we keep talking about climate change and how to cut carbon emissions, but with a whole new perspective with Geoclay and Alex Moubé, co-founder.
Hi, everyone. Do you know that concrete is responsible of 50% of CO2 emission in the concrete industry, in the construction industry? My name is Alex Moubet. I'm the co-founder of GeoClay. What is concrete? It is made by 4 elements: aggregate, sand, cement, and water. Cement accounts for 98% of CO2 emission. This is 3 times more CO2 emitted than aviation industry. It is huge. At GeoClay, we use an innovative process called flash calcination. This process consumes much less energy than conventional process used in conventional cement factory. In addition to this innovative process, we use clay as raw material because clay releases water during the firing. That's why we created GeoClay, a solution based on clay for concrete makers. Our solution offers 2 main benefits. The first one is 80% reduction in CO2 emission, and the second, the preservation of natural resources, because we use wasting clay coming from quarries as raw materials. Just to make you know that we are now setting up an exclusive relationship with big major players that operate kaolin quarries and has large deposit on inside of kaolin clay, which is in use. Our targeting is to have 200 million euros business and 1.5 million tons of production out of a global market of 2 billion euros and 19 million tons of consumption. The regulatory context is very favorable to low carbon solutions. This regulatory context requires the use of low carbon solution for the construction of new buildings. What does it mean for GeoClay? It means that the market demand is very huge. Yet, the low carbon solution available in the market are only 15% of the market demand. Our competitor in France is Argeco. And our competitive advantage between Argeco is that we have the knowledge, very great knowledge of our partner who own the deposit, and the location, geographical location is different between Argeco. From June of 2024, we are going to produce 4 tons of final product to carry out some formulation trial with our partner and customer. The target is to have some other intention and some other contract, even before the construction site come on stream. We will be profitable from 2026. And how are we going to make money? We are going to make money by selling our activated clay to concrete makers. Our main customer are the major company in construction sector and the concrete makers companies. The advantage of our sector is that we have yearly commitment agreements with our clients. We are 2 co-founders, Sami Dreux and I. with 30 years experience in construction industry. We complete the team with Virginie Mkais and Stéphane Rosan-Vallon, who have very big experience in industrial companies. We have 2 years to build our first production unit. The target is to have our first production unit in 2026. To give you more global picture, we aiming for a turnover of 79 million euros in 2028, with 3 sites of production and 65 employers. To achieve this, we are raising 1.5 million euros from 2024 to reinforce our team and to carry out the first test with our partner. We have already secured 700,000 euros in non-dilutive financing, and we are now looking for 800,000 euros in dilutive financing. As a reminder, we are emitted 80% less CO2 than conventional cements, and we will be profitable from 2026. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Alex. I'm looking at my good clients here. I'm sure you have a question.
What about competitivity of your solution? Because, you know, it's the main topics, it's the main issue compared to the traditional concrete.
Technically, we are almost the same strength resistance compared to the classic cements.
Yeah, and in terms of financial metrics.
Yes, in terms of financial, we are 5% less cost between conventional cements.
And I'm not sure to understand in which level of maturity is your technology.
Flash calcination process is already used in other application, like ceramic application or refractory application. This is, and in France we have Argeco, who already use flash calcination process with small volumes and in over the limited geographical areas. So flash calcination is not the innovation. The innovation is to make metakaolin with carry waste to make ecological addition for cement use. We have a process who is already used, so the maturity of the project is very, very good. And in the few weeks, we are going to produce 4 tons of final product under real life condition to make some formulation trial with our partner like VINCI, Eiffage, Cemex, so that they can test in real life condition our product.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. What is the volume of, or the size of product you can produce in 26?
We are going to produce 1,500,000 tons.
In terms of cubic meters of concrete?
In terms of metakaolin, in terms of binders of cements.
Around 3,000 cubic meters for concrete?
Almost, yes. Not for the moment, because as I said, flash calcination is already used for other applications. By the way, we are going to have mechanical activation in the few years. We are going to start a PhD in TES from September 2024, so that we can have a IP strategy for the mechanical activation of clay.
Do you have a problem? Sorry, I'm in the corner. Do you have a problem with whether the environmental impact is reduced by how far the material is transported? Are you manufacturing this additive in one location or in a dispersed model?
If we are manufacturing the projects in France, so the final project can travel between 300 kilometers in France, and if we want to go in other country, we can go with both. And the carbon footprint of the transportation in both is very less. And our first production site going to be in Bretagne, Saint-Brieuc. So I know you are in UK. We can reach our final project in UK by boats.
I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a topic we haven't been speaking about so much today, which is mobility, but it's a very good occasion because the end of the afternoon is also going to be about mobility. So I'm very glad to call now Floware and Julian Garbizo, CEO and CTO.
Hello, everyone. I'm just trying to find out the right... Okay. No one told me about the control, sorry. Okay, yes. So, hello, everyone. We are Floware, and we develop IoT and AI technologies to optimize and decarbonize mobility. Mobility officers, mayors, project leaders, they lead the transformation towards a greener mobility. And they have to do this by, leading the large investment projects that are going to impact our, urban development for decades to come. And in this way, they need to make well-informed, fact-based decisions on these large mobility projects, pushed by European and national regulations alike. Today, this decision-making process is quite complex, with a siloed market and actually outdated technologies at some point, leading to, and that are lacking integration between them. So this is why today the decision process is really complex, and this means that the decision-making power shifts away from the decision maker, making the decision-making process much less transparent, much more costly, and leading to unsatisfactory results. Floware actually integrates the whole mobility data value chain with 3 products. In Floware Vision, to the left, we use our own IoT sensors to create the most complete mobility data available. In Floware Core, we create use case-oriented data analysis tools and gamified simulation tools. Finally, in Floware Autopilot, we make the information accessible to the decision maker even for non-technical users, leveraging the latest development and advancements in generative AI. Today, in Floware Vision, as I said before, we design our own IoT sensors integrated in different technologies to produce the most complete data to tackle the most complex use cases in new mobility. And we also develop use case-oriented data analytics dashboards that are available today for our clients. Speaking of which, we have developed several use cases with our first partners. For instance, with Paris-Saclay, we have developed a use case oriented to, let's say, analyzing the impact of construction sites and urban logistics. We have also worked with MAN to produce actually a smart parking solution, a system that analyzes the usage of parking spaces to be able to innovate in the, let's say, new kind of offers for shared public spaces. Also, with our partner EcoMesure, we are developing a common hypervisor for air quality to analyze the impact of new public policies in mobility and its subsequent impact on air quality. With EDF, we are developing a proof of concept for actually determining the most optimal location for new electric vehicle charging stations. Our business model evolves with our different products. Today, with Flower Vision, we have, let's say, a per sensor per week pricing model that is coupled with an annual subscription to our data analysis platform. In our first year of existence, we have signed several contracts for different use cases with several renowned actors in the sector. We are addressing a B2G and a B2B market, the B2G with the state and local authorities, and the B2B market with large corporations of urban development, transport operators, engineering officers, and consultants alike. This successive enablement of our three different products in our roadmap will enable us to actually multiply our turnover from year to year, allowing us to scale. We are the team that aims to solve this challenge. Julian Garbiso, myself, with more than 10 years of experience in high-tech R&D, and Mathieu Lafarge with more than 10 years of experience in urban development. Today, to finance our strategic roadmap, we are looking for a pre-seed round before the end of the year and a seed round by mid-2025. Flower unlocks the full potential of AI to solve the transformation of mobility. In a quest for environmental transformation, pushed by European regulations and national regulations alike, calling local governments and corporations into action, the time to market is now. Please help us secure our funding to ensure that we are at the forefront of the transformation of mobility. Thank you.
That was a great call to action. Do you have any questions?
Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, just one question about the sensors. Do you have to sell your own sensors, or can you basically connect to the already existing deployed sensors of municipalities to get the data and sell your analytics part on top of this?
Both are possible because they are, as I said before, three different products. The offer of data production is available with Flower Vision with our own sensors, but we're also able to, let's say, integrate integrate our software, our embedded software in the sensors or our data analytics with the existing infrastructure.
You showed many use cases on the presentation. Are you developing all the use cases at once, or are you focusing on one specific use case first?
In the different use cases that we have presented so far, they are running in parallel, actually, because actually they do not mean, let's say, a significant deviation from the main technological development roadmap. I mean, with the three lines of development with Vision, Core, and Autopilot, we can cover the different use cases with minor changes between them. Actually, the most important part is in the adaptation of the use case orientation of the data analytics. But this can be done by allocating resources, specific resources for the different use cases that we cover that are funded by the, let's say, the specific funding of each use case with the partners that we're working with.
And just about that, I guess B2G sales cycle are really different than the B2B ones. Are you separating both of them or running them in parallel too?
We do separate the go-to-market strategy for the B2G and B2B part. In the B2G part, we have it's let's say a very well-known territory for us, in which we have, let's say, first some strategic early adopters that we know very well in the local market, so that we can develop our first products. And then we have two different strategies. One is indirect sales via service integrators, with whom we are going through some POCs, and direct sales channels that are, let's say, done in a very specific way according to, let's say, the different possibilities that we have in terms of, let's say, public market regulations in different, let's say, for different amounts, and then let's say, the large offerings, the large calls. On the B2B side, we work first of all with, let's say, the research for, the search for strategic partners, which is like, for instance, with EDF and EZVA, their, let's say, their subsidiary for electric vehicle charging stations. It's in that case, the use case matches with, let's say, a very large potential market with each of the partnerships that we develop.
You mentioned that you have a stream on B2G and then B2B. Thing is that how do you see your coexistence or integration with legacy systems? Because by the end of the day, mobility management in European cities tends to be, or has become, something which is very much platform oriented, as opposed to having different systems coexisting. Do you have a position on that? Because I mean, you let's say, on an opportunistic, from an opportunistic perspective, you may adapt to the best approach in each case, but do you have a preferred strategy, so to say?
Let's say that we have seen the fact that several cities want us to, let's say, adapt, or let's say, plug in to an existing platform, or let's say, similar digital twins, for instance. And in this case, it goes with the modular nature of what we are developing, in the sense that the ideal scenario is, let's say, a bundled offer that, let's say, goes to solve a specific mission, integrating our data production analytics and also the final, let's say, autopilot tool that just to comprehend everything. But at the same time, it is absolutely possible to have a perfectly modular offer, in the sense that since we have software models that have clear APIs to communicate between them, the same goes for communicating externally. It is just the matter of developing, let's say, the right plugin to, let's say, connect our data sources to the outgoing, let's say, model, in this case, the legacy model. It is something that can be done, but of course, I mean, we will push for renovation eventually.
Yeah, because it's also, I mean, it's important from a technical point of view, of course, both options are compatible. But you may want, or you may need to position yourself in a market where bigger companies, which actually are system integrators, okay? You see, in this market, you usually have bigger fishes, which are system integrators or technology developers, but above all, turnkey system solution providers. And then niche technology providers, okay? Yeah. But usually what you would find is that these niche technology providers, as a matter of policy, choose if they work with system integrators or with governments, because maybe system integrators would not like that you compete with them, so to say. You're providing them with your technology, but at the same time, you are approaching their customers with your technology. So that's why I think it's important that you define a strategy on that.
Yes. To be honest, it is nothing. It is not a thing that we have defined so far. We are working with service integrators, talking with them, and so on. We have not yet found ourselves in a situation where where it becomes incompatible to continue developing the things that are in our roadmap. Of course, that if at some point we were sort of forced by a partner to choose between one of them, it will depend on the factors that we have. That will be present at the time of the decision. So far, it has not been the case. But yes, we could anticipate that. That is an interesting perspective.
I'm really sorry, but perhaps I'm low to understand, and I need to have more details to understand. What is the shape of your advice at the end? What kind of action do you deliver to your customer to increase the flow?
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, it depends on the expertise that we develop in each use case. For the base use cases that we have developed, which are the ones that are, let's say, on the B2G sector, we count with the necessary expertise to provide, let's say, not only just the information, the right KPIs and so on, but also to provide some insights on some clues for, let's say, improving public policies and so on, which has, let's say, an added value compared to just raw data. The idea is that, I mean, while we develop the different use cases with the right expertise that we internalize in some cases and that we have and already have in some others, this is internalizing the tools that we develop, especially in the autopilot, so that it can be incorporated to the basis of knowledge of the, let's say, the fine-tuned large language model that goes behind it, so that it can provide, let's say, intelligence insights that can be useful for exploitation in, let's say, in the ground reality. That is the logic of the development of the LLM part. It is based, as I said before, on, let's say, skills that we have nowadays and knowledge that we have nowadays, and the ones that are developed while we, let's say, in the first use cases that we develop, we will do it, let's say, in a more, let's say, hands-made approach, in the sense that we will craft the knowledge base with those, so that it can be automated and reproducible at the end.
This means that at the end, it will be recurrent services?
Exactly.
Sounds
exactly
good.
That's exactly the case.
Okay, just for fun, my house is in the middle of Paris-Saclay, and you need to work very well because right now it's impossible to cross the.
We have seen it. We are located
Platon
there.
du Moulin.
We have worked there already, and yes, we have seen that with our own eyes.
And do you have key metrics increasing performance with your technology?
Sorry again?
Do you have key metrics to characterize your technology?
Well, actually, in terms of specific metrics, we can actually talk about the, I mean, the accuracy, the performance of detections, and so on, the different things that we are able to measure. But so far, what we have yet to determine with our first clients is the improvements that they have found with the things that have been implemented with our services. That is something that we are starting to collect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
And we're crossing the Atlantic again to go back to Latin America with a startup coming from Chile, which is called Strong by Form, and its CEO, Andrés Mitnick Asun.
Okay, I'm the last one. I am the last one.
You absolutely are.
So I'm the only thing between all these wonderful people and the cocktail.
No. There is another discussion, fireside chat
okay,
on
good.
electric mobility. Don't send anyone to the cocktail.
Okay, perfect. Better then. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrés Mitnick, and I am the CEO of Strong by Form. And I'm glad to introduce you today to the future of wood. And this is a future where we can increase by 400% the yield of the forest for structural purposes, while at the same time making wood eligible for new uses in new industries. Humanity needs to build 13,000 buildings every day for the next 25 years, and we must do so without burning the planet. But construction as we know it is not up to the task. It's the world's largest polluter and the biggest consumer of raw materials, and its productivity has lagged for the past 20 years. There are many companies trying to fix this, of course, many of them thinking about prefabrication, where the 10 times productivity gains can be achieved. And we are with them in prefabrication, but we're stronger. We're stronger because we're inspired by nature. And every day, nature creates millions of cubic meters of structural materials in the most efficient and sustainable manner. We're stronger because we developed a lightweight composite that replicates the internal structure of trees. And trees are lightweight and strong. They're even stronger than steel per unit of weight when working in tension. We have called this wood flow. And wood flow is bringing back the natural intelligence of trees to the world of engineered timber. Wood flow is the only biocomposite technology that we know that can be deployed in the millions of square meters to serve as a construction material, while also achieving the weight to strength ratio required in mobility. And how do we do it? Basically, we combine material science with the latest digital optimization tools and digital fabrication techniques to obtain a shape and a fiber structure that resists the most using the minimum amount of material. We then couple this with a robotic process to get a final component that is not a commodity, but a component highly tailored for its final use. This allows us to create multiple products. For example, this is a real image of the 3D cladding we're able to produce. This is our first product, unique, beautiful, but at the same time, highly material efficient. At the end of this year, we will deploy our freeform facades that will demonstrate how bonding, nature, and technology can really redefine our built environment. We have never seen before these large shape 3D components made out of wood, and we're really curious to see what architects and designers will do when realizing there's a new way to work with wood. Another version of our technology are stiff nodes. So basically, we can connect wood using wood and getting steel out of wood construction. This makes wood construction much more productive because you need to over-dimension wood only to work with the stiffness of steel. We're already testing this with Deutsche Bahn in Germany, creating a first prototype to help them green their infrastructure. And this will be showcased in Berlin in July this year. But while we deploy our first products, we're finalizing the development of our high-performance CLT. We call it Woodflow Core. This is 60% lighter than CLT and 7% stiffer. So for the same price that you get a 6-meter span of CLT, you're getting a 10-meter span of Woodflow Core. That means that we can help construction or timber construction move from residential to office and commercial uses where you need these longer spans to get the open spaces that this type of clients require. And construction is only the beginning, as we are also piloting with BMW for interior and exterior components of the body of the car. And if we're good for BMW, trust me, we're good for high-end retail, hospitality, and everything in between. But we're not doing this because it's easy, but to create a huge impact. Woodflow resists most per unit of weight, contaminates less, and consumes less than any of its alternatives. Every time you replace a steel or concrete by Woodflow, you'll be saving also materials in other parts of the structure. Every time you replace Woodflow for CLT, we'll be saving 75% of the trees. And for every 1% of the world's slab market we capture, we'll be avoiding 0.5 gigatons of emissions per year. And for every 1% of the world's slab market we capture, we will be selling north of 7 billion. Today, we're working with leading companies that are helping us validate our technology and launch our first products. To scale, we will license the manufacturing technology and create a cloud service that will allow designers, engineers, and architects create their own Woodflow products. We're up to the task, but the challenge is huge. And to excel and fulfill this vision, we need to excel at structural optimization, which is what my co-founder Jorge does from Germany. We need to master digital fabrication, which is what my co-founder Daniel brings to the table. And we need a savvy business strategy and financial team, which is I lead, and that's my contribution to the team. So we combine technology and finance. And because we know that this is well beyond our capabilities, we have put together a set of executives and scientists to get the best possible advice. So basically, we know the built environment needs to continue growing, but we need to do it in a way that is sustainable, efficient, and most important, profitable. We're doing all that with Strong by Form. So if you share this vision, we would like to welcome you to make Strong by Form even stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just noticed that your T-shirt is your logo.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
When will you be able to start producing this at large scale, in large volumes?
The architectural products, meaning the claddings and the facades, as well as the automotive components. Next July, we are establishing a manufacturing facility here in Europe, most likely Spain, and that's an industrial facility that will produce at least 16,000 square meters of cladding per year. Then the structural components, the Woodflow Core, is still in development. The prototype, we're building it in Germany, so it's going to be ready and tested by the end of next year. And then it will probably take us another year to get an industrial facility to produce it. So that one, I would say, by the end of 2026.
I've got another one if no one else has any. Well, obviously, you're talking about timber materials in buildings. What have you done around fire safety testing?
Of course, that's a great question. So for fire testing, we combine two philosophies. Let me go back here. Basically, what we do is a combination of a chemical protection with a physical protection. On the chemical side, we use fire retardants. When you use fire retardants with wood, it's not usually very useful because it's only a coating. And when the coating is gone, the protection is gone. But because ours is a laminated material that we build from the bottom up, we add the fire retardant in all the volume of the material. And what the result is that wood flow burns 10 times slower than natural wood. But for this type of products, that's not enough. So what we are doing is that the bottom layer of the wood flow core design is not only meant to distribute the stresses, but also as a physical protection for fire. So by combining that board of solid wood together with the chemical protection, we think we can achieve, or we're looking to achieve, the 90 minutes resistance that you need to be able to comply with European norms.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. In terms of lifespan of the product, what are your assumptions?
In terms of what, sorry?
Duration of the product, lifespan.
Okay, so wood flow is 88% wood right now. We're working on making it even more wood, but right now it's 88%. But that basically means two things. First, we inherit the characteristics of the natural wood that we're working with. And secondly, it basically behaves exactly like natural wood. So this lasts as natural wood. If you want it to last more, you need to protect it with some coatings. If you want to be really sustainable, you will probably need to take better care of it, because we would not use any sort of nasty chemicals, but only the bio-based ones that have less performance than the petrochemicals right now. But it's basically, you can think of it as wood. So this, I mean, if this has lasted here 10 years, wood flow will last 10 years as well.
And what is the competitivity in terms of compared to the traditional materials?
Totally. So as I was showing here, basically we weigh less than 1/10 of concrete to support the same load. And we are the price point of CLT. As far as we have been able to find, today timber construction is about 10% more expensive than regular construction because the deployment time is shorter, right? So there's a positive effect on the NPV. So basically, we reduce a lot of the material consumed, not adding much cost to the process, but also, and this is something we need to work on to get the exact number, the slabs are the heaviest components of a building. So if you replace all that concrete for a lightweight slab, you will very likely be able to save on walls, on beams, and on foundations, because your whole structure will be lighter. So this is an optimization process that goes beyond replacing one material with another one. Now that we closed our funding round at the end of last year, we have the cash to do this analysis. So we will basically build a building using regular construction methods and our construction method, and to understand the fully potential there on competitivity. We have different competitors in different industries. So cladding is one type of competitor, structural slabs, CLT, concrete, steel, another type, and then automotive is again steel usually, or aluminum, but in a different version. We have companies that are providing solutions that compete with ours in those different markets, but we haven't yet found anyone that is in all those markets. So we feel that's sort of, we're hedging our bets. And that's why we have sort of 3 source markets, being construction the main one, of course, because we might fail in cladding, but we might succeed here, and we might fail in automotive. But one single failure will not get the company down because we have our bets hedged.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. Is it possible to build any form, or do you have any limitations of the size, or the thickness, or what is the limitation that you have?
Yes, so a single panel, because this is the manufacturing process encompasses pressing, we are bounded by the size of the press. Right now, our biggest component can be 2 by 1 meters. That can be fixed using a larger press, but there's a point where large presses get way too expensive. By the way, we don't use nor high temperature, nor high pressure, but anyway, a big press is an expensive component. So to deal with that, we deal in 2 ways. wood flow core, we are not planning to do a 10-meter core in one single press, but it's a package of cores that are then connected on the bottom, on the side. We're working on those connections right now with a university in Switzerland called the Berner Fachhochschule, who is creating the connection system for the shells.
Steel connection or?
No, wood connection.
Wood connection.
Yeah, everything. We always do glued connections.
Okay.
Exactly. And the same is true for other types. So when I show you this car, of course, what we're doing with BMW right now, this is not a monocoque. This is sort of the vision of the future, right? We're creating a single component of a regular car. But to build something like this, we need the connections because we won't do this in a single press as well. Those connections we're expected to have them ready by the end of the year. And then we will be able to do these larger structures. But the cladding goes just to the wall. So basically, we can do a wall as big as needed.
Yeah, I'm curious about the how capital intensive this model is and on how much you need to raise to achieve your ambitions.
Totally. So let me give one. Okay, so today we have developed the robotic cells to produce the thinner shells, which are the architectural products and the automotive ones. Those are robotic cells. They cost about $2 million each. And basically, that can be an add-on to any shop that today is working with automated timber manufacturing because you want a CNC machine because we CNC the mold, so you want to integrate with that. But that's a $2 million investment for a facility that produces 16,000 square meters of this stuff. That's where we're planning to license it. So we're establishing the first one. We are de-risking it. And part of our corporate investors play a key role because, for example, VINCI is a manufacturer of timber products from Spain. They are all the way from the cladding to the furniture to the cross-laminated timber. And they could highly potentially be the first licensee of our technology. But the goal is to license the robotic technology to any sort of shop. Then for the wood flow core, it's a different technology because we need higher productivity than what the robots can give you. And that's a bigger industrial facility. There, we're planning to do more of a joint venture by geography with different partners. And the first plant of that and the pilot plant we want to build is going to be between 10 and 50 million euros. So that's why by 2025, we're expecting to go into the market to raise between 20 and 25 millions to build that facility as well as continue developing the technology. And the idea, after all, is for us to put the IP and a company like Pfeiffer puts the capital in and they manage the facility and we provide the technology. We're the technology provider.
Thank you very much. A lot of enthusiasm. Of course, you can all meet them in the cocktail, which is afterwards, but not right now. So please remain seated. We have last one part of the afternoon, a part that we have chosen to focus on mobility decarbonization, a very important topic that we are going to discuss with Pierre Coppey and Benoit Lemaignan. This part will be in French, so I apologize for our international friends. Just give us a few minutes to rearrange the stage and we'll be here. Thank you.
Et nous allons nous retrouver dans quelques instants. Avec comment on veut que les gens ressortent, c'est important.
On va reprendre.
Please be seated. We are going to start again. Please stop and be seated. We are going to resume. So this last session is going to be dealing with electrifying mobility. And we have two different points of view. We have Pierre Coppey with us here. He's the Executive Vice President of VINCI Autoroutes. So we'll be talking about infrastructure mainly. And Benoit Lemaignan, who set up Verkor, specializes in electric batteries. And these batteries are used for electric cars. I have some figures to start off with. I think you probably all have these figures and know them well, but I'd just like to start off by talking about electric cars and give you some figure. There were 14,000 new cars that were sold in 2023. So this is in Europe, yes, in Europe. So you can see there's been a huge increase. And in France, there's been 15% of the new cars that are sold are 100% electric, and 25% are hybrid. Yes. But this means that the overall number of cars represents 3 or 4% of all her cars. So I think I'm going to stop with these figures. I'd come back to my first question. What you've said is absolutely right. We are selling many hybrid cars and electric cars, but these are new cars, and when you're dealing with the actual park of cars in all, you can see that obviously it still represents a small percentage. The trends is that we will be putting an end to thermal cars and that the whole car park, so to speak, will be moving towards electric cars. And if regulations allow this to happen, we will, in the future, not have any more thermal engines, but only electric cars. So now this brings me a question to you. How will the infrastructure be adapted to these new trends? How long will it take for us to adapt? In fact, what we are saying as managers of infrastructures is based on facts. And the facts are that there are 1,100,000 kilometers of motorways. I don't have the figures for Europe, but I think we could find them. And 2,500,000 rail tracks. This is why most people still use roads. And this is because the road network has such a dense mix that it's possible to actually move people and goods much more easily and reach every corner of France. This is not the case for the railroad or railway network. Now, unfortunately, in France, people think that we are actually opposing one mode of transport with the other, but this is not really the case because we can say that since 1990, things have remained more or less changed. We can say here that the railway network, even if you have fast, long distance fast trains, and even if you've developed railways in urban areas, we can say that between 1980 and we can say that between 80 and 90% of transport or mobility is road. So when you're looking at electric cars, this means that if we want to transform the vehicle fleet and the energy that is used, you've got to adapt the infrastructure. And to do that, you have to obviously use charging systems in the simplest possible way. What we mean is that if you want to cover long distances with electric cars, you've got to have electricity supply, and you don't want to be stuck without the possibility of charging your car. So this means that you've got to have lots of different recharging points. Before the electric car, in fact, most people said, well, you just have to charge your car at home and you can actually use it for short distances. Just go to your office and back. But in fact, with zero carbon, we want to go further. And this means that you can't just charge your car at home or in the office, but you've got to be able to charge it on the way. This means that the infrastructure has to be adapted. And it means that you've got to find fast or ultra fast charging points along the way on the motorways. And this obviously raises all sorts of problems. A whole series of requirements. First of all, you've got to have the right amount of energy or electricity. In France, we have that. We also have stored energy, but we've got to transport it. We've got to bring it and distribute it to all the different points where it is required. And then you've got to be organized so that the entire motorway network and the charging points are accessible. So we have to make sure that they are accessible, safe, and comfortable. We'll come back to the technical challenges, but you talked about moving people and goods. And there's a lot of talk about using electric cars for individuals, but what about goods? And I'm talking about lorries and trucks. Well, obviously, they're going to have to switch as well. But do they have the means to do so? Is this possible, feasible, or not really? Are there enough cars available or trucks available? Is there enough capacity? Well, both are required, but there's a lag concerning electric light vehicles and heavy vehicles. And on this, there is a question which is important. We have Alphonse in the room, and we're lucky. He's in charge of the Alliance for Zero Carbon development, and he will be able to give us more information about this. But to be very straightforward about this, transport of heavy vehicles, electric heavy vehicles, is first of all got to be adapted to demand. And if you go to the different fairs where heavy-duty vehicles are being manufactured, you can see that technology does exist, but you've also got to then figure out whether it's better to have lorries that are transporting 4 tons of batteries, or lorries that have recharging systems. In VINCI Autoroutes, we are testing mobile charging systems or points, and we would like to see whether it would be for some of these motorway networks to have these sort of mobile points, either using rails or induction. And the technology is being tested right now, and these would be for heavy-duty vehicles. And following the results of these tests that are underway, obviously there will be decisions taken concerning the future approaches and trends. But we are starting to have these charging points on the motorways for heavy-duty vehicles. This afternoon, we talked about deep tech and links with corporations, and a lot of people talked about timing. So Benoit, my question really is now for you. Do you think there's a right balance to be found between the way in which electric vehicles are being developed and the way in which batteries are being developed? And where are you at? Are there innovations happening there as well? Hello. Well, just to respond to what Pierre said earlier on, I remember a sentence that was stated by the Minister of Transport that for our roads, it's 360 degrees, 70 kilometers an hour, whereas railways, it's 70 kilometers an hour, but only in 2 directions. And that makes all the difference. So you can see, even if we have a more dense network, I lived in Toulouse for 10 years. Maybe one day we'll get a fast train going through there. But anyway, what we are working on is to see how we can improve this. This brings me to Verkor. We created it 10 years ago because Pierre and I met some 10 years ago. And I remember we talked about fossil fuel and fossil fuel cars. And now, 10 years on, we can see that things has changed because the transport sector is going to be moving towards zero carbon by 4 or 5%. But obviously, that's not so easy. You've got to build the vehicles, light and heavy. You've got to build them in Europe, which is obviously better for all of us. And obviously, you need to have drivers or clients who are not afraid of breaking down. And I hope that a lot of people who said that if you've left in an electric car, you shouldn't be too worried about breaking down, because in fact, in France, the infrastructure is adapted. There are some people who've switched. They have batteries of 60 kilowatt-hours or 70 kilometers, and this means that you can move everywhere in France, but you have to switch to, and in 2019, 2018, it's not really so much rules and regulations that changed, but with Tesla and others, you could see that you could actually switch from a thermal car to an electric car. Cheaper to maintain, cheaper to actually run, because you can see that the energy that is developed or is used for running the engine and not really wasted in any way. In France, unfortunately, this is not the case in other countries. There really seems to be a real development, and we are using it to in a diversified manner. That's what we thought about with Verkor. Obviously, in France, solar panels have actually developed a great deal, and we feel that in this mega trend, we need to localize activities. The Japanese and the Koreans have some advance on us, and others have invested a great deal since COVID, and Americans have said, we are going to work on the electrification as in China, and Europe has to actually take that step for all our industry to follow suit. But we will have in 2025 a big moment. Our aim, I wasn't there for the panel, is that Verkor actually has this vision, but has also started working with Renault. Renault is going to be using and developing the R5, but with an electric battery and also scenic. So we are working in those lines. So let me come back to what you said, Pierre. You said that in France, concerning electric capacity, things were rather good. So what's missing so that we can actually go the whole hog, so to speak, even and whether we're actually worried about outage when we're on our motorway. So what's actually missing to be able to go further? Is it a lack of investments or is it something else? I think this question corresponds to the fact that there's been a certain demand and supply. We can say that the motorway network has taken the first steps, so has been quite determined to fulfill its goals. But obviously we need more time, more than 5 or 6 the time required to just fill a tank is what you need to actually charge your battery. You need higher power, you need more points, you need more charging docks. And this is something that we've got to look at with the builders, with the state, obviously, who organizes and authorizes investments, and the investors themselves. And you've got to find the right sort of model, the right sort of investment plan, so that it is not there are no actually outages or moments when you are stuck. This is Elon Musk really developed superchargers for that. People may or may not like him, but you can have these superchargers. That is what he thought about. And this is what led to 10 years ago, almost, let's say 8 years ago, her superchargers. People thought this was rather exotic. And people thought that they'd put it in a hotel or a restaurant or somewhere like that, where people don't mind spending time. But there's still much to do. And when we compare it to other parts of the world, I think most consumers, at least, are afraid, even today, of it not working and of being stuck. Let me come back to the industrial side of things. You are building a huge factory in the north of France, and you are planning to re-industrialize things in France. Maybe that's not the right term, because some of them are new sectors, new industries, new sectors. So my question again concerns the pace. How do you build this sort of huge factory in France? How long do you need? And how can you compare this to Tesla or others? It's a big question. That the first thing I'd like to say, I would talk about industrialization rather than re-industrialization. And secondly, we are working on sectors or industries that are highly automated. So when you're looking at the cost of a battery, the raw material represents 2%, energy represents 1/9, and labor 1/9, and the amortization is approximately 1/9. So 2/3 is the raw material, and everything else can be divided up between everything else. So obviously labor costs are expensive, but when you compare it to other parts of the world, including in China, I think if you employ an engineer in Shanghai, it would cost as much as in France. So the second point concerns the pace. Yes, Renault has shown some trust in us. So obviously, they want their vehicles to be equipped in time, and we have to keep up and make sure that we are in time. So we created our company in July 2020, and it was perfectly clear that we had to start production in 2024-25. So it's going to be 25. Which is actually quite short, because in 5 years we had to develop the product, which is very important, based on the expertise of approximately 100 odd people. We had to make sure that we had a system which worked faster, so that you don't actually spend that long on these docks, and then also come up with production levels, because nowadays we don't actually say we're just going to sell a battery. You've got to have a qualification of the entire product. And thirdly, the construction of our gigafactory, we had to get authorization permits, etc., etc. So all of that takes quite a while. And what we have found that it would have been very difficult to go faster. Just to give you two figures, once we chose our site in Dunkirk, and this was based on a compromise. It depended on the space, the electric hookup, etc., etc. All of this takes a very long time. This area was already hooked up to electric point. We got a permit to build in 4 months. All of this was within her normal schedules. So it was all fairly smooth. And then the construction, well, it was quite important because we had to put up concrete pylons and set up the facade. And this is not something that you can compress or make shorter. So during the construction period, we brought in the equipment, we started hooking them up, and making a battery means that you actually have to have another room within, which is suitably dry room. And it's very important to make sure that that is well equipped. You've done it in Grenoble on our production site, and we're going to do this in Dunkirk as well. Now, will this timing allow us to catch up with some of the others? No problem with Japan and Korea. With China, there is another issue, and that is that the Chinese industrial tool has an amazing pace and speed. They are ahead of us. There are more of them working on these subjects and areas. So when you have companies that are starting up, 6 may work, 6 may fail, but there's always another one that's there to replace the first one. And with what's happening in France, we feel that we will be able to work with others. We are working on batteries. We need to work with people who are actually bringing us the raw materials, those who are actually going to dispose of them, and the machinery. The Germans are trying, but they're still running late. It's important also to have a team approach. You need suppliers, partners, people who have the right sort of thinking so that they know how to work in these dry rooms. In fact, there are not that many in Europe. You find people who are from the pharmaceutical and the food system, and also semiconductors. So here, once again, we're going to look for the right people who can work in that area. Concerning timing, we also have to employ people. And when you employ people, especially young people, they say, great, I've worked here for 4 or 5 years. It was fantastic, but I'm going to go around the world on my bike now. Electric bikes? Oh, maybe not. But anyway, when you're working with an industrial plant, you can't work from home. You've got to be there. And so that also represents certain risks. Obviously, we can automate, but you can't actually build a battery from home. So there is a culture shift and a way of working which has to be accepted. We are creating value, pride in our work, but we can't do that without having a mind shift as well, which goes hand in hand with that. I've heard keywords like ecosystems and are there other words that can be used to describe your success? And I'm not talking about previous experiences, but about your factory right now for Verkor. Well, one of the stories that I want to tell is that when we started, we were 3. I don't know, when we met Pierre, we were maybe 3. But anyway, all these projects usually start with a small group that have an idea and who actually think about that. And I think there are people here who are thinking in the same way. So you start with a vision, you get different people involved and on board. And then we were fortunate. We were lucky because there was this switch concerning electric mobility. There are more projects that are getting support in France and Europe. And also we have this momentum which allows us to hop on the wagon. Pierre, do you want to talk about ecosystems, new partners? Well, I think what is absolutely fascinating in what we're talking about is the fact that there is a deep radical change that is underway, which is something which obviously concerns behavior, but also there are changes in rules and laws. There are public incentives that are different. There are new investments that therefore are encouraged. And all of this leads to new services, new infrastructure, new industry being developed. And that's where we're at right now. And I think what we've just talked about shows that there is a deep radical change that's taking place in our societies. And this concerns the environment, it concerns the energy sector as well. And it affects individuals, infrastructures, industry, governments. Well, I'm not going to go back to the time when there were just 3 of you in VINCI. Yes, that was a long, long time ago. But I can see that there's, well, if you want me to get into all sorts of dialectical acrobatics, I could talk about the Giraud and Lucia moment when they met at the end of the 20th century. These were people who were absolutely fascinated by transport, energy, and finance. And therefore, they built a tramway with a concession in Bombay. And in fact, they put all the 3 together. There was an infrastructure and there was a system of transport that was developed in this way. So it was a project that was really one of our founding projects and led to many others. So, for example, the electrification of the country had a huge impact on VINCI and obviously brought in infrastructure projects and other projects that represented this change in habits. And I think that's quite in keeping with what's happening now and with the actual history of our group and the way in which these projects transform our way of being. So what is happening right now? What are the innovative projects that you're working on that might also leave the same sort of imprint? Wow, that's a big question. It's almost the last question. No, I'm happy. I'm very happy to answer these questions. Well, I honestly believe that when we're looking at this question, I think the environment, the climate, and the pressure of what's happening is going to have an effect on all of us. In the construction industry, for example, people are working on making buildings energy savers, and here we are actually investing hundreds of thousands or millions in huge numbers of construction sites. For infrastructure and transport, well, we talked about this as well, and you can see that we are once again facing huge changes in the energy that's used, in the way in which these new habits are spreading. And we can also say that the energy mix that we've been talking about is such that we obviously have to build energy production systems, nuclear and renewable energy systems, which are huge on a very huge scale. And this leads, therefore, to a change in the way we use these systems, but also in the way we produce them, and huge investments in infrastructure. So investments is obviously key. And this morning we said that was probably the weak link. We talked about young companies and especially those that are startups. How do they get the necessary funding? Sometimes it's not always easy. Can you think of other issues that might have an effect on mobility? And let's not talk about startups, but what will be the main challenges that one has to face to actually get on board? Do you want to start? Well, yes, finding the right sort of investments is important. And I could perhaps share my experience with you. It's not always been that easy. And I just like to say that now we can say that even today, large investors are not keen to invest in new upcoming companies. They prefer to invest in guaranteed industries or old established companies. So this seems to be the case in many other sectors as well, artificial intelligence, the space sector, and so on and so forth. So we talked about finding a balance between the input from the public sector and rules and regulations. When we look at the electrification of vehicles and transport, people will be talking about 2035. Is that the right date or not? If we put corn fuel in the cars, will they run better? And so on and so forth. So when we're talking about zero carbon and transport, in fact, there is really a lot going on. And if we don't actually hop on board, either the train's going to leave, so to speak, without us, or we're going to miss the whole game. So that's the first point. So there's this vision and being regular in applying the vision. And secondly, when we're actually applying these issues at an operational point of view, you can see that the cars are here. And so we've got to apply it. But earlier on, we talked about 25% of electric vehicles exist in our country. And when you look at these starting systems, do we have to have special payment schemes? Well, I don't have an opinion on that, but obviously as long as you stay in this sort of interim or gray zone, how people are not going to want to invest as much. We talked about infrastructure earlier on, but when we're talking about batteries, heavy vehicles are not switching to electric systems because there are no batteries or not enough batteries. And therefore, this means that obviously when the batteries will be there, then obviously the heavy vehicles and lorries and trucks will actually come on to this market as well. So I think we have to have a clear line, clear vision, and not really hesitate, because unfortunately, if you do hesitate, that means that nothing really happens.
Si j'ajoute mon grain de sel.
Let me add my opinion. First of all, we need players working for the long run. We are dealing with a deep, capital-intensive and long transformation. In my opinion, this requires a structuring role from the state in the setting up of the timeline, some obligations, some incentives, etc. Not necessarily only tax incentives, actually. And I believe that the building of guidelines and the defining of timelines that are discussed enough and democratically discussed enough so that they are accepted and shared by everyone is essential. On top of that, well, you don't have a transformation without infrastructure. Now, at the moment, we do feel that it's important to say that these major transformations require investment in infrastructure, with a framework that is designed so that each player can play its role. And then if I put my hat of VINCI leader, I'm perfectly fine with saying that having players investing in infrastructure over a long period of time, leveraging the users' contributions is a successful system. It is a system with which we've built all these countries' infrastructure. We tend to forget that, but it's important to remind it. Major infrastructures in France were funded by public and private players, mostly with a concession model. There was a commitment to have users paying for it. And I believe that it is more acceptable from a political standpoint to have users pay for something than just having taxpayers paying for it. And we've proven it over the past 150 years. So I believe it's a good reminder to say that it is useful to have long-term operators with large investment capabilities. Infrastructure is costly. It requires a lot of capex, and we also need financing systems that do not necessarily leverage taxes, but the users. That's my simple answer, and I see that the screen is telling me to be brief. Yes, perfectly timed, and maybe next time we will invite the authorities to know what they think about this. Thank you very much for wrapping up this day with this comment, and well, you can now continue this discussion at the cocktail.